to ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator. They could have found a better picture than that. Political commentator Sam Dowd. I mean, she's a good-looking woman. I'll also be mucking the week with comedian Francis Foster. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thanks, Nana. It's 3 o'clock. I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation following an appearance at the city's youth court. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Greenhill area on Wednesday evening. The boy, who can't be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. Former SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon says the last few days have been, quote, obviously difficult after her husband, who was the party's chief executive, was arrested. Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday following a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. The couple's home was also searched by officers. In her first comments since the arrest, the former First Minister said she understood the scrutiny that comes in being a public figure and that she intends on getting on with her life and her job. An Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in a Belfast court charged with the murder of a Romanian woman. 26-year-old Habib Shamel is accused of stabbing 27-year-old Gila Ibram to death. Her body was found at a home in Limerick within the Republic of Ireland on Tuesday. The district judge refused Shamel bail, calling the charge very grave. Labour says tens of thousands of serious offenders have been spared jail while the Conservatives have been in government. The party claims that more than 16,000 adults convicted of child pornography offences and 130 rapists have been handed community punishments or suspended sentences since 2010. Labour is facing criticism over the wording of its latest campaign. The party has previously accused Rishi Sunak of not believing that child sex offenders should be locked up. Well, teachers in England who belong to the NASUWT union are to be reballoted on strike action after they rejected the government's latest pay offer. 87% of members turned down a one-off payment of £1,000 and an average pay rise of 4.5%. It comes as a new survey revealed that teachers work an average of 54 hours a week, with 83% saying their job has adversely affected their mental health. Chris McGovern is chairman for the Campaign for Real Education. He told us pay improvements are needed.
Teaching is an energising job, or it should be, and if it's depressing you, you shouldn't be in the job, because good teachers have to be happy teachers. And of course, happy teachers have to be well paid. But you know, within the school budget, there is plenty of money to pay teachers a good salary. The majority of staff in schools are not teachers, so we need to shift some of the money from the non-teaching staff to the teachers, and we could solve the problem. But that's called thinking outside the box, and the Department for Education, which I've advised over decades, isn't very good at that, I'm afraid.
More than 850 community and charity representatives from across the country have been invited to the King's coronation on May the 6th. 450 recipients of the British Empire Medal have been asked to attend the service at Westminster Abbey. Meanwhile, 400 young people will watch from St Margaret's Church. Marine Constable Dawn Wood of Essex Police told us she received her invitation by email.
I initially opened it, I thought, who on earth is playing a joke on me? There's going to be, I'm going to find out that I'm going to turn up to the palace and I wasn't really supposed to be there. But yeah, I've made a few phone calls since and yeah, so excited. Absolutely. I just can't believe that I've been selected. What an honour.
The Foreign Office is calling for a de-escalation in tensions between Israel and Palestinians after British citizens were caught up in a series of attacks. One Italian tourist was killed and 8 people, including UK nationals, were injured after a car ploughed into pedestrians in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, 2 British-Israeli sisters were killed in the West Bank after their car was targeted in a gun attack near an Israeli settlement. Their mother is also in a critical condition. The United States is promising to train Taiwan's armed forces as China continues military exercises around the island that Beijing claims as its own territory. The House Foreign Affairs Committee also pledged to speed up the delivery of weapons. China's military drills began a day after Taiwan's president visited the US. Taiwan claims that 71 Chinese planes and 9 ships have crossed the Taiwan Straits median line today. North Korea has conducted tests on an underwater nuclear attack drone, according to the country's state media. The test is the latest show of force against the US and South Korea. Photographs aired by state broadcaster KRT show the drone exploding beneath the surface. It comes just a week after Pyongyang disclosed it had the technology enabling sneak attacks in enemy waters. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's get back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 8 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And now it is time to muck the week, and we've been having a mucky old time. There's been a load of argy-bargy over the government's plans to hold up asylum seekers in a barge, which has obviously enraged the locals. The Bibby Stockholm, is what it's called, will be berthed in Portland Port in Dorset for at least 18 months and will accommodate about 500 single men. Yes, that's right, adult males, whilst their processes are being claimed. Now, the same old voices are coming out to complain about the conditions that these poor souls will have to put up with. A gym, games room, 3 meals a day, heat, room, shelter and freedom, because it's not like they're going to have to stay on the thing at all. 500 men will be allowed to run riot in this tiny place, which doesn't have a hospital and only one main road. It's not as if they have to pay bills, and some people, like our ex-service personnel and women in refuges, would call this luxury, but the woke elite are complaining. You couldn't make it up. Then Labour tried to turn the tables on the Conservative Party. It's finally dawning on Sir Keir Starmer that if he can't say what a woman is, he could potentially turn off half the electorate. So Labour tried this marketing tactic with a post on Twitter which read, "Do you think that adults convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison? Rishi Sunak doesn't." And that was next to a picture of Rishi. Unfortunately, this has backfired, seeing as the Labour Party were in uproar when Boris made this comment.
This leader of the opposition, a former director of public prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
So if Rishi should be held accountable, even though he's not directly involved with deciding the fate of people who abuse children, then surely Sir Keir Starmer can be held to account, also especially after all the furore when Johnson accused the Labour leader of failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile for child sex abuse more than a decade ago when Starmer was head of the Crown Prosecution Service. Of course, Keir was not directly involved with the case at all. But it seems a bit odd for the Labour Party, who have a huge lead on the Tories, to go along with this particular tactic. Then, of course, we move on to this story. Transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, who has over 12 million followers across TikTok and Instagram, and it's reported that for each post she receives around $150,000. Other major brands like Bud Light, Maybelline have also used this influencer. She'll be potentially promoting Nike products, which is a bit odd, really, seeing as she is ultimately a man. Take a look. It's a complete caricature of a woman. I don't quite understand why Nike chose to use this particular person to promote women's bras, but hey-ho. Then, finally, 25 bloody spares form part of an art exhibition to represent the blood of Afghan people after, of course, Prince Harry talked about killing 25 Taliban. An artist covered 25 copies of the royal's memoir in blood in a poignant stunt after, of course, Prince Harry received this. This was all, of course, before King Charles's coronation. It's been a mucky old week. Oh, this is fun, isn't it? OK, well, this is coming up in this hour. I've got comedian Francis Foster. He'll be joining me in the studio for Muck the Week, where we'll be discussing this top stories from the plans to house migrants on barges, Sir Keir Starmer, and that controversial Labour tweet, plus the sponsoring of trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney. And then after Muck the Week, we've got physicist and engineer Brian Catt and founder of the British Weather Services, Jim Dale, will join me in studio to explain and discuss what carbon capture is and if it's a scam. We'll also be looking at whether now potentially a drug that can stop diseases like arthritis and type 1 diabetes will soon be made available and whether it is as effective as it could potentially be. I'll be speaking to medical professionals to get the latest. Coming up at 3:45, it's this week's Political Spotlight. I'm delighted to say I'll be joined by leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, to discuss why he got into politics and what he's trying to achieve all across this Easter weekend. Then at 4 p.m, I'll be doing my monologue, talking about Nike sponsoring transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. All of that coming up. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Right, so joining me now is stand-up comedian Francis Foster. Francis, good to see you.
It's good to be here, Nana.
Right, so start me off. What do you think? Migrants in barges, I mean, I can't see the problem with it. I'd have put them in cruise ships and they wouldn't be allowed to get off. That's not being horrible.
What, you put them in cruise ships, Nana? And what, 5-star cruise ships?
Exactly. Terrible, aren't I?
Yeah, with karaoke, a pool, a spa and a jacuzzi.
I know, horrible, isn't it? I'll be contained in that awful ship.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad, particularly when you compare it to the London rental market. If anything, it sounds a lot better.
There's no mould.
There's no mould. There's no landlord. And you know what? You're going to get your deposit back, so...
Yeah, you don't even need a deposit, actually. And you get your free meals. 3 meals a day, cooked by chefs, people on the barge.
Yeah. You know what this proves to me? This is what I think. You know, if somebody is prepared to trek all the way from countries like Syria and Iraq, go across continents, across Europe, arrive, on the shores of Calais, risk life and limb to get to this country, pay a people smuggler thousands of pounds, it only proves one thing. France is dreadful. It is. It must be. They get to France, they look around, they think, absolutely not for me. Keep walking, Mohammed. Let's keep going.
Honestly, I just wonder, what are people thinking? Because it's usually the liberal elite who've got nice houses and everything else that think that this is unfit accommodation. We, the taxpayer, are paying for all of this. And, I agree you should house people who are fleeing persecution, even though those people are coming from France. But I understand they may have come from somewhere else. They may know someone and so on and so forth, all the stories that go alongside that. But you'd think that you'd be thankful to have a roof over your head, food and shelter.
I think what we have is an immigration system that's actually not fit for purpose. I don't think it's particularly clear. I don't think it's enforced particularly well. What we have are Home Secretaries who love to talk a good game, whether it's Priti Patel or Suella Braverman. They talk a good game, but the reality is it doesn't work. They don't achieve results. And what we have in many ways with people like Suella and Priti is a worse of both worlds. We have people who talk a good game and use, on occasions, inflammatory language, but ultimately do nothing and are fundamentally incompetent.
But, I don't think you can blame it just on them. I think we need to look at the Home Office itself. And what the hell are they doing? Was it like they processed 9 people a week or something out of 1,000? I mean, I would have it on performance pay. I'd take them off their contract. I'd say, you're going on performance pay. You want more money, you need to do the job properly. I don't understand why it takes them so long. I don't get it. And then they're calling for a lot of them going on strike because they want more money. And it's like, well, you've got a fantastic pension across next to anyone who's in private, who's not a public sector worker. It just makes no sense.
Well, it's a good point. But the reality is all these offices of state need reforming. The fact is they don't work. And what happened during the pandemic with when they closed down, when everybody worked from home, it made it even worse. So now they've got huge backlogs, and it's not just a Home Office, it's literally every other government department. I mean, take the NHS.
Oh, God,
death rates are through the roof. So we are going to need root and branch reform. How you're going to do that is going to prove incredibly difficult.
What do you think about this tweet then? I mean, this tweet that went up and it was just saying that, I mean, it's a bit of a nonsense, really. But what was your take on the Labour Party going through a tactic that they were absolutely aghast by when Boris Johnson made a comment?
Well, look, when you're a comedian and you start out, immediately you want to go for, the paedophile jokes. And Labour are trying to do a little bit of the banter, so that's what they've done. They've gone for the paedophile jokes, and it's failed miserably. I'll be honest with you, I actually found it hilarious.
Why, though?
Because
it's ridiculous. It wasn't funny at all.
No, the tweet wasn't funny, but the fact that they put that out, and then they thought that it would be a good idea, and the fact that that would gain traction and make the Labour Party look good, that is funny. The fact that you thought, and the Labour Party thought that this would make them look good is hilarious.
Well, they had another one. Do you think an adult convicted of possessing a gun with intent to harm should go to prison? Rishi Sunak doesn't. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. You know he would want them to go to prison. We all would.
Yeah, of course.
It's a stupid thing to say.
It's a moronic thing to say. It's an idiotic thing to say. And whoever is in charge of this, of the PR department in Labour or the social media, they need to be fired immediately.
They probably thought, this is brilliant. I have it. I've got it. And then they put this out there and everyone's like, what? What? The Labour Party are like storming ahead of the Conservative Party.
Of course.
Around about 20 points. They don't need to do this. This is like political suicide. I mean, why are they doing this?
Well, nobody knows. But I just imagine when Keir Starmer wakes up every morning and he sees Diane Abbott on his Twitter, he must have his head in his hands and all the other parts of the mental left. And then he suddenly sees that tweet going out. He's like, no, what are you doing?
Well, he can't say what a woman is, so I'm afraid that ship has sailed. I think he realises that he's made a bit of a boob on that one and people aren't happy with it. Now, this one that caught my eye with regard to the trans activist... it seems a bit Dylan Mulvaney. She is dancing around, prancing around, not like a woman, like somebody who's caricaturing a woman, in a bra, promoting bras, sports bras, without any breasts at all. And obviously she is a biological man.
Yes, absolutely. Look, but we all know that Dylan is a woman. And if you don't say that Dylan is a woman, that you're immediately cancelled, Nana, and being transphobic. What better way to appeal to women than Dylan Mulvaney? Look, he's got a man's name. I accept that. He's got a man's name. She's got a man's name, and she was born a man, but she is now a woman. And Knight just thought, you know what? We could get like an incredible athlete. I don't know, like a Serena Williams, somebody who is magnificent and achieved great things. But you can't have that. You can't have that because that's boring. That's what we need. A new woman. We need a better version of woman. That's where Dylan comes in, and they're going to make loads of money.
And well, I don't think they will. I think a lot of women like me will say, I'm not buying Nike again. I used to buy their high tops. I used to be clad from head to toe in Nike, but I'm afraid that has put me right off. And finally, bloody spares, because, of course, they're covered in blood. And it's sort of like to demonstrate 25 of them on sale to talk about, because obviously Prince Harry went on about killing 25 Taliban.
Yeah, I mean, that was the kind of thing that you say down the pub after you've had a few too many pints. You go, you know what I've done, mate? I've killed 25 Taliban. What have you done? And the fact that he put it in his book, you just go, Harry, mate, there is a reason why you are a prince. Generations of inbreeding have left you with a lower IQ than normal. And as a result of that, you have PR people. You have people to put out carefully curated statements so the little thoughts that rattle around in your head don't come spilling out. Do you remember when Tom Cruise got rid of his publicist and he went absolutely nuts and everyone went, oh, my word. That's what Harry needs. He needs his publicist. Otherwise, he's going to get into problems like that and he's going to make himself look a bit silly.
Yeah, he's gone spare. Thank you very much, Francis. Really good to talk to you. That's Francis Foster. He was mucking the week with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, it's time for climate control. And I'll be asking senior meteorologist Jim Dale and physicist engineer Brian Catt, what is carbon capture and is it a scam? Stay with me.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, don't forget you can also download the GB News app and you can check out all the things here on the channel. But now it's time for climate control. And this is where I take a look at the climate change and ask in-depth questions. And today, taking me through carbon capture, because we're going to talk about the UK, which has confirmed that carbon capture sites in Teesside will be the first in the UK. They're part of the government's plans to remove carbon from UK electricity production by 2035. Now, the site's function is to capture and reuse carbon dioxide, CO2, in order to meet the government's target to capture between 20 and 30 million tonnes of CO2 a year. But why is the government investing in sites like this during the cost of living crisis? Could the money be invested elsewhere to help struggling families pay for their bills? What exactly is carbon capture? Is it a scam? Joining me now in the studio is Brian Catt, who's a physicist and engineer, and also Jim Dale, who's a meteorologist for the British Weather Services. All right, Jim.
Hiya,
talk to me, explain to me in layman's terms and everybody else, what the hell is carbon capture? Why are we capturing carbon? I thought we didn't. What's the point?
There's a big point, and the point is we are warming the Earth at an incredible rate, particularly over the last 30 years, since the Industrial Revolution, going back 100 years, but it's the last 30 years that are really started to steam things up. And it's CO2 is the main gas that is responsible for that. That's emitting from industrial use, cars and the chimneys, you name it, it's all over there.
Everything.
Yeah, so
from
the CO2...
the planet itself. Isn't about 98% or 95% of CO2 from the planet itself? 97 or something?
Most of this is man-made. Yes, there's a natural element.
But how much? What percentage of CO2 is naturally, out of the full 100% of it that's out there, what percentage of it is provided by...
I don't know what the exact figures are, but what I would say is that mankind, human, particularly in the last 30 years, is increasing its output exponentially across the board.
Do you know, Brian, briefly?
3,000 gigatons.
So in terms of the percentage of the planet
in
the atmosphere, what is produced naturally by the planet itself, and what percentage are we responsible for?
There's 3,000 gigatons in the atmosphere. I think there's 770 in circulation
what's the
in the carbon
Can you do
cycle.
The percentage-wise?
Well, it's tiny.
It's not tiny.
34 gigatons that are human emissions in a total of 3,000 gigatons is a bit over 1%.
OK, so about 1%, you're saying we're producing about 1% of the unnatural CO2?
No, I wouldn't agree. I don't know where those figures are coming from. What I would
where
say...
are they coming from,
Brian? From scientific literature, that's what they are.
Scientific literature, peer-reviewed?
Yeah. You could go and look it up.
Sure. I'm not so sure. Let's just take ourselves back. Let's take ourselves back 300 years, and we're now something in the region of 150% more CO2 in the atmosphere than there was. Look, let's just brass tacks, yeah, brass tacks. Temperatures over the last 30 years have gone up to, in a straight line, like the Eiger, like the face of the Eiger, essentially. We were sitting there in Britain, 40.3 degrees at one of the stations that we've talked about previously, and several others, that breaking records and over fist. The IPCC report came out.
I need to get Brian to come back on that. So he's saying that the temperatures have gone up exponentially.
Well, they haven't. I've just actually given Jim, and I'll give you what I gave him.
OK, but tell us what
he was promised last time he was on with Lois Perry, which shows that, in fact, now is about half a degree cooler than it was in 2016 and about 0.8 of a degree, and it's 0.5 of a degree cooler than 1998.
Sorry, when you say...
Basically, things are just going along flat at the moment. It's been cooling since... It's half a degree cooler now than it was in 2016, which was an El Niño event. It doesn't look as though it's getting a lot warmer. To say it's up 150% the CO2 is completely wrong. It's up 40% on what it was before the Industrial Revolution, and it is a tiny, tiny amount. And it's a tiny, tiny effect within the overall control system of the climate, which is... But Brian, everything works at a factor of 100.
You're representing, give or take, 1 or 2% of the scientific community, as in climate scientists. 98% believe what we're saying.
So if 98% believe what we're saying, and he's saying that 98% of the CO2 is not man-made, why is your 98% more valid than the 98%?
I tell you what, we can argue statistics all day. I mean, what I think we need to do... Look, statistics. We can all do that.
But that's what
the point is, let's try and agree something. Is the climate changing, and is man responsible for part of that, and a good part of it?
Yes, no.
OK, yes, no. So yes to what? The climate is changing, but no to man being...
The climate has changed. It's not changing much at the moment. It's probably at a turning point now. It changes cyclically every 1,000 years, and it moves by about a couple of degrees at the poles and 1 degree at the equator. And that's very well documented in dozens of peer-reviewed papers by thousands
of the last 20 years, 18 have been the warmest on Earth since records began.
But when did
18 out of 20.
When did records begin? Was it just 100 years ago?
Well, no. I think we can go a little bit further than that.
How
a bit
much
more
further?
than
How much
that.
further?
Well, 20, 30 years more in terms of recorded stuff, as in how we do things nowadays, observing, going out and doing.
So we've got 120 years worth of records.
No, we've got more than that.
Billions of years.
We've got thousands of years of before that.
Yeah, we have.
Proxy data records from all around the world in dozens of papers in published scientific literature. I don't know why you get so carried away with peer review. It's very well known in science that there were warm periods and cold periods, and our instrumentation only looks at the rising phase of the current warming cycle. Before that, it went down, and then you go back up to the medieval warm period, then you go down again, you go back up to the Roman warm period, and it's 2 degrees colder now than it was during the
Brian, that's over eons, that's over thousands of years. What we're talking about here is essentially the last 30 years in the face of the Eiger in terms of the temperature profile, CO2 profile, all of those. How did we get to 40.3 degrees? Why are records? Why is the ocean warming up? Why is all of this happening?
We didn't get to 40 degrees. That's a spot temperature in the UK, which is nothing to do with global temperatures. Global temperatures are an average over 30 years, and they're taken across the whole of the globe. Most of the temperatures that you're interested in are in the ocean, because the ocean is 70% of the globe, and that's where all your weather and climate are decided, because all the heat, as well as all the carbon dioxide, is in the ocean.
So in 2022, we had the warmest ocean temperatures ever recorded across the globe.
20 years.
Well,
no.
Well, Brian's actually just said we look at other things. We look at data, in other words, fossils. I'm not saying fossils necessarily, but they are part of the equation that we look back across thousands of years to see what was going on there. Look, we all know the climate has changed.
But the climate will
periodically.
Change. But everything changes. I mean, nobody expects it to stay the same. I mean,
Nana, it's the speed of things. That's the whole essence here. We can all argue till the cows come home about climate changing.
Okay, well, fine.
Changing.
So you're saying we need to capture carbon.
Yeah.
Can you describe very briefly how it's done? We've got about 30 seconds with you describing it. How's it done?
There are 3 ways, without being too technical. The one that I prefer the best is the bio side of things. It's called BECCS, where we basically grow trees and moss and other greenery. That in itself releases oxygen.
But how do we capture it? We put it in some
that's how you capture it. You're capturing it by that. So planting a tree is a way of doing that. Is anybody against that?
Brian, do we need to... Nobody's against planting trees. I love trees.
No,
but, Brian, do we really need to be doing this carbon capture? Because it just feels...
Not if carbon dioxide is not a problem, no. The important thing about trees is they take 80 years to grow and to mature, quite likely, and people are getting paid a lot of money. If they're planted for free, fine. If people have to pay for it in electricity bills, forget about it, because we can't afford it. And it's not necessary anyway. And if we wanted to do it affordably, we'd do it in third world countries who will do it a lot cheaper than they will in the UK. What's actually happening is people are trying to buy up farmland to plant trees in because there's money for it. But the other carbon capture and storage, I don't know if you want to... But there's another way, which is just to separate the carbon dioxide from the flues of power stations.
Yes,
because we're going to need a lot more fossil power, because we can't actually supply the grid with the energy we need from renewables. So they've just realised that. So they're going to have to... they're going to have to get rid of carbon dioxide because CO2 is bad, and there'll be a huge amount of money paid for pumping carbon dioxide down a hole in the ground. And nobody will ever have to prove
it's not just a hole in the ground. Remember that CO2 can be taken and used for agriculture.
It
can be used for food.
And how much of it will be?
Well, I don't know. That's a question you can ask politicians.
I'll agree with you on something. It's fine as long as nobody has to pay for it in any way within their energy bill.
Right, well, there we go.
We're getting places.
We'll do it if it's free. Yeah, we'll do it if it's free. We'll go along with it if nobody has to pay for it. But if somebody's benefiting, then the question is it a scam? Well, we certainly haven't answered that. You think it is?
Absolutely.
It definitely isn't.
It's monetising the climate change racket, is what it is.
Do you think they're monetising it?
Well, money is going to be part of it. Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah, OK.
It's not one of them questions, anyway.
They're monetising it. Thank you very much. Brian Catt, he's a physicist and engineer, and Jim Dale, founder and senior meteorologist for the British Weather Services. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, I'll be speaking to a neurologist to find out if they found a potential working drug to stop diseases like arthritis and type 1 diabetes. Stay tuned. You need to hear this. You need to hear about this drug. Then, Political Spotlight. I'll be interviewing leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, to find out why he got into politics and plenty more. Stay with me, but first, let's get your latest news headlines.
33 minutes past 3, I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Greenhill area on Wednesday evening. The boy, who can't be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. Nicola Sturgeon says she has not been questioned by police following the arrest of her husband. Former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. In her first comments since his arrest, the former First Minister said the last few days have been obviously difficult, but she intends to get on with her life and her job. An Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in a Belfast court charged with the murder of a Romanian woman. 26-year-old Habib Shamel is accused of stabbing 27-year-old Gila Ibram to death. Her body was found at a home in Limerick within the Republic of Ireland on Tuesday. The Foreign Office is calling for a de-escalation in tensions between Israel and Palestinians after British citizens were caught up in a series of attacks. One Italian tourist was killed and 8 people, including UK nationals, were injured after a car ploughed into pedestrians in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, 2 British Israeli sisters were shot and killed in the West Bank. The United States is promising to train Taiwan's armed forces as China continues military exercises around the island that Beijing claims as its own territory. The House Foreign Affairs Committee also pledged to speed up the delivery of weapons. China's military drills began a day after Taiwan's president visited the United States. We're on TV, online, on DAB+ radio, and of course we're on TuneIn too. This is GB News. Back now to Nana.
So just coming up to 36 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome on board if you just joined me wherever you've been. It's OK, we've got plenty more to come. On the way at 4. Today on, we'll be talking about Nike sponsoring transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney in my monologue. Of course, they're doing that to advertise sports bras. And I'll get reaction from my panellists Lizzie Cundy and Sam Dowder. But on the way next, an amazing drug that may help to stop type 1 diabetes and other autoimmune conditions. Stay tuned.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. We're live. Don't forget, you can also check us live and stream the show on YouTube. Now, an 11-year-old has become the first British child to be part of a trial for a new drug, a revolutionary new drug named teplizumab. I got it right. Teplizumab. Other autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. Now, doctors have hailed this drug as a game changer. They have high hopes for its ability to tackle nearly all autoimmune conditions. Can you imagine if this actually works? Now, these conditions affect over 4 million people in the UK. And the question is this new trial too good to be true? Well, joining me now to talk about this is Dr. Mike Barnes. Mike is a neurologist. Mike, this sounds incredible. I have an autoimmune condition. I'm like, really? Is this drug, is it a repurposed drug? Is it a new drug? What is the deal and how does it work?
It's new and it's really quite exciting. It's only really been tested so far in diabetes. And we know it now works to slow down the onset of diabetes. People who haven't yet got diabetes can take the drug and it's just administered through a vein for about 14 days. And then it seems to slow down the progression of getting diabetes, which is really quite exciting. It works by affecting the body's immune system. In autoimmune disease, the body attacks itself. So things like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, the body will attack its own cells. And what this drug does is to reverse that and stop the body attacking itself, basically, so it slows these things down.
OK, well, I mean, that's pretty much how these autoimmune things work. So the trial, after the trial, if it proves to be effective, is it, what kind of time scale are we looking for it to be released? If you say it works out, they think, oh, my goodness, it does work for all these conditions. What's the time scale? And does it work with people who've had the condition for a while, or is it just people who are, what's the deal?
Yeah, well, it's helped that it's been approved in the United States by their body over there called the FDA. And it's now with our licensing body called the MHRA, and it's on a fast-track program called the Innovation Passport. Now, fast-track in MHRA terms is perhaps not as fast as people would like. My guess is it will take at least a year. So it's not quick, but you've got to make sure the thing is safe, which it does seem to be in the American studies. How does it work? As I say, it stops the body attacking itself by affecting the antibodies that attack the cells in the pancreas in this case. And it seems to work best if you haven't got diabetes. There are some tests you can do in people, and mainly in children, called pre-diabetes. You can detect that they're going to get diabetes later on. They don't handle sugar very well, for example, and there's antibodies you can detect in the blood. And you give it to those people, and it slows down the time it takes to get diabetes from about 2 years when you can detect it to about 4 years. Now, that doesn't seem a big amount of time, 2 years delay, But it's really, really helpful because it's children. It saves them having insulin. It saves them all sorts of problems. It may improve life expectancy because the less time you have diabetes, the better off you are. So it's really quite interesting.
Well, listen, Mike,
those who've already got diabetes, probably, but we don't know for certain.
Mike, your audio is so unfortunate. It's so bad that we could barely hear you, but we could make out a lot of what you were saying. But it was just such an important discovery that I just thought that we needed to talk about it. Dr. Mike Barnes, thank you so much. He's a neurologist. I'll give you the name of that drug in just a moment. Again, somebody will say it in my ear and then I'll say it out loud, just so you know. And also, Dr. Mike Barnes is a neurologist and a medicinal cannabis expert too. I'll give you the name of that drug in just... Temozolomab, I think is how you say it. I'm not going to do it again. Right, let's move on to this one then. I've done my best. I'll maybe write it down for you. But now 850 community and charity representatives from across the United Kingdom have been invited by King Charles to enjoy the coronation service from Westminster Abbey on Saturday, the 6th of May 2023. Now, joining me is GBNews national reporter Theo Chikumbo, who's outside Westminster Abbey. Theo, talk to me about this. What's going on?
Yes, so in about 4 weeks' time, there will be a real community presence here during the coronation service at Westminster Abbey on the 6th of May. So essentially 650 people who've been recognised for their work. These are people who work in charities, others are volunteers, some who have received British Empire medals and others who have received distinguished roles in their communities. All of them are being invited. Now, some of these people were offering their services to people in their local community, picking up medicines, going on bike rides with people and being there for people in their community. Another young teenager now, he was camping out in his garden for a long period of time and he's raised over £600,000 for his local hospice in Devon, among many more. So they'll be preparing themselves, getting their latest suits and dresses to come here on the 6th of May. Now, 2,000 people are going to be here in attendance for the coronation service, which is going to be officiated by Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. In previous coronation services, more people have been in attendance, but this time round there is a limited capacity due to health and safety concerns. There will be some MPs and peers as well, and it's going to be watched. They estimate around 27 million people will be watching it on television in this country and 11 million on the radio, and that's not including those who'll be watching it around the globe. So just a few weeks' time here in London at Westminster Abbey, there'll be a real community presence of those who've been recognised for their work in their community.
Thank you very much, Theo. That is Theo Chikumbo. Really good to talk to you outside Westminster Abbey. Right, joining me now to discuss this is Sahil Usman, who's been invited to the ceremony for services to the community in Blackburn during COVID-19. Sahil, thank you very much for joining me. So when did you find out that you've been invited? You've been invited.
Yeah, this was about 3 weeks ago now. And I was told that I came back from sixth form actually. And my mum told me that there's an email from the King's coronation. And I thought, right, why would I be getting an email from the King's coronation? But as like the dates came out and all the information came out about the King's coronation, then I thought, right, okay, this must be a genuine email. And then I filled out the form and everything and I sent it off. And that's where it started.
Well, that's fantastic. So what did you do when you found out? Did you go, ah? Because that's what I'd be doing. I'd be like, I'm going. Who did you tell? You must have run around your house with the invite.
I think at the time it was just me and my mum that were there. But then I told the rest of my family too. I think instead of screaming with joy, I think more of so it was a proud feeling moment because it was more like my work has been recognised and that's going to motivate me to do more in the future.
Well, listen, Sahil, I wish you all the best. I'm sure you're probably taking a family member with you as well. Don't suppose they'll expect you to go on your own. So Sahil, you've been quite incredible there because you were battling leukemia at the age of 15 and you dedicated time during lockdown to support other vulnerable people as well, which is quite impressive. So you should be proud. Who are you taking with you?
It'll be my mum.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice. Well, Sahil, get some good pictures, won't you? And thank you so much for joining us there, Sahil. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. Really lovely to talk to you. What a wonderful story. Right, well, let's take a look at this. A seaside Yorkshire town in Scarborough has been crowned the best place in the UK to visit this Easter by holiday rental company Airbnb. The resort town has been popular with holidaymakers from across the country ever since the discovery of spa waters in the 17th century. And joining me now to talk me through all of this is a reporter, Anna Riley. Anna.
Scarborough has been named the best place to come this Easter in the UK by Airbnb. I'm delighted now to be joined by John Senior, a local restaurateur. John, what did you make to this accolade that's been given to Scarborough this Easter?
Well, it was brilliant news, absolutely fabulous. And, I mean, we deserve it. You look around, we talked about it earlier, the sun shining over the town, the beach is full, the donkeys are out, everybody's having fun. We can hear them laughing away there, definitely laughing away there. And what's not to like? So, yes, I think it was well-deserved and very delighted about it.
And what makes it such a great place to visit? Because it's been a tourist destination since the 17th century, hasn't it?
1642, they started sea bathing just behind you, actually. But I think what makes Scarborough particularly special is not only is it geographically beautiful, we've got these beautiful golden beaches, we've got the castle behind us, we've got adventure sports, we've got, in fact, we're looking there, there's surfers in behind us, and there's canoeists, so we've got that sort of, it's almost like the ski resort thing, we've got the surf resort thing, we've got wonderful mountain biking up on the moors there and up in Dolby Forest, we've got Whitby and Filey, our sister resorts either side of us. We're framed in this most beautiful coastal area. We've got everything you need to have a wonderful holiday, campsites, hotels, deluxe hotels, cheaper hotels, Airbnb, as you said, and great restaurants. So what a great offer. What's not to like?
And what does it do for businesses like yourself to have a bit of a boom for tourism?
Well, I think in these present times where it's quite a difficult environment to be working within as small businesses, it does give us additional finance, additional cash flow, not only to make sure that we can pay our wages and give good salaries to people to encourage them to come and work in the industry, but it also gives us money to invest in our own businesses to improve the product so that our customers come back next year and see a better product and everything, and Scarborough looking a bit smarter, our restaurants a bit, and that helps to hold them and bring them back year after year. And apart from the fact that we are in business at the end of the day to make profit and encourage us to get involved in the businesses and new people to get involved in tourism. So it's it's very, very, it's the most important thing actually.
Thank you so much, John. So Scarborough, definitely a great place to visit this Easter and all year round.
Thank you so much, Anna. Lovely to talk to you. That is, of course, Anna Riley talking to us about that. Brilliant. Right, well, stay tuned. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's now time for my political spotlight this week, and I'm joined by the leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. He's going to tell me all about why he got into politics and telling me all how he spends Easter. Richard, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for taking time out of your wonderful...
Good afternoon, Nana. I'm sorry I'm not in Scarborough this Easter. It looks fantastic.
I know. It looked lovely, didn't it? Richard, talk to me, because I've seen you a few times. I've spoken to you a few times in the studio, but never really found out that much about you. I know you're quite a religious person, so Easter is probably a very poignant time for you. But I'm just wondering, talk to me about why you got into politics and how it all happened.
A very good question. So I spent about 30 years in the world of business, in real estate, but I always had a view that I wanted to get to a stage in life where I'd try and give something back, Nana. And the simple, for me, the most important thing was I felt very strongly about the European Union. I felt very strongly about not joining the euro currency. So that seemed the logical point to get involved, really. And then one thing led to another. And before I knew it, we had the referendum, and then we had the Brexit Party. So it's been quite a journey, let's say that.
Because you're quite religious. Talk to me about your religious, because you're Christian. How do you manage to square that with your political side of things? Because, you've seen other politicians get into all sort of hock by saying what their religious beliefs are, which are in contrast with what their party are expecting them to do in the direction. How do you manage to deal with that?
So actually, I am, yes, I'm a Christian, but I would say that I wear that very lightly indeed. Some might say too lightly. In a sense, that's one part of one's private life. And in terms of my political life, I just focus on what I think is the right way to run the country. And the reason that I get involved is because I just think this is a great country that could do so much better if it was better run. And to do that, if you've really got a strong view on anything in life, whether it's a charitable interest, whether it's in coaching in sport, actually you've got to get stuck in yourself and try and shape and influence and make a difference. And very strong views on particular issues. And so I just said, well, I'm not prepared to leave it to others. I want to get stuck in, roll my sleeves up and make things happen. And in a sense, that's what we're doing. We're giving, democracy works best in any country, Nana, when there's more choice for voters to look at, more debate, more options, more different answers to the challenges any country faces. And the party that I lead, we're putting forward particular solutions that we feel very strongly about. We think the country can grow much faster. We trust the people to spend their money better than individuals rather than civil servants spending it on their behalf. So these are the things that motivate me and drive me and push me forward. And look, I think there's the country's in a really difficult place, and many people politically either feel homeless or they're giving up, and that's a terrible state for any democracy to be in. So we're trying to give new solutions, new hope to people.
Well, of course, the other parties are obviously giving lots of their solutions as well and lots of hope. And people will obviously base their decisions on what will benefit them the most. Of course, we're in Purdah at the moment, so we can't sadly talk about the policies, but we will get stuck into those at some point afterwards. But away from politics, then, how do you enjoy spending your day? What does Richard Tice do on a daily basis? If he's got something, if he's going to go out somewhere or do something, what are your interests outside politics?
So I'm very interested in sport and in particular in skiing. That's one of my main hobbies. I love football, so I'm a big Liverpool fan, which is sometimes a bit of a labour of disillusionment, but I can be, try and be patient. We'll get there in the end. This is a difficult season for us. So those are things that really interest me. And then my original business interest was, as I say, was real estate, commercial property. That helps pay some of the bills, and that in a sense keeps my feet on the ground in terms of how challenging it is for different businesses across different industries to be able to to make things work and what the challenges are, whether it's energy costs, whether it's in regulations, all this stuff. So my property interest takes a fair bit of time as well. And broadcasting. So there's no shortage of things to do, Nana. That is for sure. No shortage whatsoever.
No, it's great. I love being busy. But you're talking about houses and house prices. Is this good news to you or bad news that they're going up? Because they're going up, but it means that, it's been a bit of a rocky time for homeowners.
What we've got to do is to make sure that there's enough homes that are affordable for ordinary people on for example, let's say the average wage, and that's a real issue for the country, is that we're not building enough affordable homes. And in the world of politics, that's what we're very much, and all parties are without question very focused on, because that's a huge challenge. I've built thousands of homes in my sort of former business life, so I understand that very, very well indeed. And
I was going to ask you about. In your view, because I was wondering, because a lot of people are talking about people being paid enough. Do you think MPs are paid enough? I think they are. 86 grand's not bad, is it? Some people are saying that's like a terrible wage.
Look, let's be clear. 86,000 is almost 3 times the average national wage. And I've never been an MP, but clearly it's an incredibly busy job looking after your constituents. But there is a genuine debate about, if you want really good people to go into politics, which is a tough and frankly very brutal game, then you've got to make it worth people's while. And there's a huge debate about second jobs, whether or not they should or shouldn't. There's a debate. We need to have a rational debate, for example. Have we got too many politicians? What would happen, for example, if you had half the number of politicians and paid them twice as much or more? Would you get would you get a higher caliber of person into politics or not? Question mark. And these are important points. Equally, you can say there are certain types of jobs. For example, if you're medically trained and you're an MP, and I know there's a number of those, keeping your sort of keeping your hand in the game, so to speak, actually is very useful if you're a backbencher in terms of you can see what's working, what's not working, and that you can bring that skill into the House. So look, there's pluses and minuses to this debate. It's not an easy one, but clearly you've got to abide by the rules, and that's very, very important.
I think MPs all across the board have paid plenty of money. I think if the nurses and doctors would look at that and go, 86 grand, that's a great salary. Why can't they do that? I think it's plenty, and you know. But listen, Richard, it's
but
such a
we pay
pleasure.
too much tax, Nana. That's the problem. There's too much tax on all of this.
Well, they're all the parties are guilty of that, to be fair.
Except ours.
No, because all of them are talking about that. The Conservatives want to cut tax as well later on, and Labour Party, well, we don't know what they'll do, but they've all suggested those sort of things in their manifestos as well. Richard Tice, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Are you going to do you eat Easter eggs? When do people
yes,
eat
definitely.
Easter? Yeah.
Absolutely. I love milk chocolate. Dark chocolate's a bit too strong for me.
Yeah.
But I will be indulging for sure this weekend, without doubt.
Have you got a favourite brand of Easter egg?
Oh, I couldn't possibly comment, but anything that's Mars related is a big winner with me.
Lovely. Richard Tice, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. Happy Easter. Enjoy yourself. That was, of course, the lovely Richard Tice. We've got so much coming up on the way. My monologue, I'll be talking about transgender athlete or transgender influencer who is currently one of the faces of Nike promoting their bras, only she is a man. This is GB News. More to come in the next hour. Hello, good afternoon. If you just joined me, it's just gone 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online, on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. It's just gone 4 o'clock. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation following an appearance at the city's youth court. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Greenhill area on Wednesday evening. The boy, who can't be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. Nicola Sturgeon says she has not been questioned by police following the arrest of her husband. Former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. In her first comments since his arrest, the former First Minister said the last few days have been obviously difficult, but she intends to get on with her life and her job. An Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in a Belfast court, charged with the murder of a Romanian woman. 26-year-old Habib Shamel is accused of stabbing 27-year-old Gila Ibram to death. Her body was found at a home in Limerick within the Republic of Ireland on Tuesday. The district judge refused Shamel bail, claiming the charge very grave. The NHS Confederation is warning 250,000 appointments could be postponed due to a 4-day strike by junior doctors next week. Medics in England will walk out immediately after the Easter bank holiday weekend in an ongoing dispute over pay. The British Medical Association says the industrial action could still be avoided if the government makes a credible offer. But the Department of Health and Social Care insists that the strikes must be called off before any negotiations take place. Teachers in England who belong to the NASUWT union are to be re-balloted on strike action after they've rejected the government's latest pay offer. 87% of members turned down a one-off payment of £1,000 and an average pay rise of 4.5%. It comes as a new survey revealed that teachers work an average of 54 hours a week, with 83% saying their job has adversely affected their mental health. Chris McGovern is chairman for the Campaign for Real Education. He told us pay improvements are needed.
Teaching is an energising job, or it should be, and if it's depressing you, you shouldn't be in the job, because good teachers have to be happy teachers, and of course happy teachers have to be well paid. But you know, within the school budget, there is plenty of money to pay teachers a good salary. The majority of staff in schools are not teachers, so we need to shift some of the money from the non-teaching staff to the teachers, and we could solve the problem. But that's called thinking outside the box, and the Department for Education, which I've advised over decades, isn't very good at that, I'm afraid.
More than 850 community and charity representatives from across the country have been invited to the King's coronation on the 6th of May. 450 recipients of the British Empire Medal have been asked to attend the service at Westminster Abbey. Meanwhile, 400 young people will watch from St Margaret's Church. Marine Constable Dawn Wood from Essex Police told us she received her invitation by email.
I initially opened it, I thought, who on earth is playing a joke on me? There's going to be, I'm going to find out that I'm going to turn up to the palace and I wasn't really supposed to be there. But yeah, I've made a few phone calls since and yeah, so excited. Absolutely. I just can't believe that I've been selected. What an honour.
In other news, the United States is promising to train Taiwan's armed forces as China continues military exercises around the island that Beijing claims as its territory. The House Foreign Affairs Committee also pledged to speed up the delivery of weapons. China's military drills began a day after Taiwan's president visited the US. Taiwan claims 71 Chinese planes and 9 ships have crossed the Strait median line today. North Korea has conducted tests on an underwater nuclear attack drone. That's according to the country's state media. The test is the latest show of force against the US and South Korea. Photographs aired by broadcaster KRT show the drone exploding beneath the surface. It comes just a week after Pyongyang disclosed it had the technology to practice sneak attacks in enemy waters. You're up to date on GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens now. Let's get back to Nana.
Good afternoon, you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. Have you ever heard anything so ridiculous? From the brand that gave us Just Do It, Nike are using trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney, a biological man, to sell women's bras. How is that a good idea? Have a look at this. This is Dylan Mulvaney promoting Nike's sports bra for women. So if you're listening on radio, you can download the app or go to gbnews.com, where you'll see a biological man with no breasts prancing around in a material bra and a short pleated skirt, or leggings I think he was wearing, in a manner that can only be described as a caricature of woman, an insult to actual women. It's almost as bad as this on Twitter.
Why? Stop. Why is this thing not hot? I swear to God, if anyone says welcome to womanhood, I'm gonna...
Of course, if you weren't watching that and you were listening on radio, it's a man writhing around in supposed agony, dressed as a woman, but with a cheesy grin on his face as he pretends to be suffering with period pains. Absolutely ridiculous. I can tell you now that no woman I know smiles like that when she's going through agonising cramps of a period. We have to endure this, and we do it once a month. We just get on with it. We get on with life. So this is clearly a man. And if you think there's nothing sinister in this, then take a look at this third clip of terrified swimming champion Riley Gaines being ambushed by screaming trans activists and hit twice by a guy in a dress after saving women's sports speech, after doing a speech on that at San Francisco State University. Cops say that there were no arrests. Apologise for the flash photography there. Hardly the sound of a so-called vulnerable community. As far as I can see, it is the women who are the vulnerable ones. Riley had to hide in a cupboard for 3 hours. But let's get back to transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, who has over 12 million followers across TikTok and Instagram. And it is reported that for each post for Nike, she received around about $150,000. Other major brands like Bud Light and Maybelline have also used the influencer and paid potentially similar amounts. So instead of Nike using brilliant female athletes, of which there are many, like Riley Gaines, to promote something that is clearly required and designed specifically for adult human females, which is bras, they could have used women. Nike have chosen to use a biological man, a space that should actually have been taken by a female. Sometimes I have to ask myself whether I'm living in a delusion. What on earth were they thinking? Why would that make me, as a woman, want to buy anything from Nike ever again? I've decided personally that I'm going to boycott the brand. I have absolutely nothing against someone who is trans. But what I do object to is the stupidity of brands like this that think that women will buy anything, especially when it's being mocked in this manner. It's just in such a woke mockery of what a woman is. We are not just simply makeup and dresses. We are more than that. The majority of women are childbearers who keep the planet populated, and we sacrifice a lot to do that. And even if we do not bear a child, we go through the trials and tribulations of periods and menopause, and after all of that, that is no laughing matter. In a pinned comment to Nike's verified Instagram account, the company told customers to be kind, be inclusive, and encourage each other. Well, if Nike are happy to forego my custom for a handful of trans women, then I'm happy to leave them to it. I'm calling on women. Next time you see a Nike product, don't buy it, don't do it. Before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Now, this week, the government confirmed its plans to house around 500 single adult male asylum seekers on a barge docked just off the Dorset Cape, despite opposition from local Conservative councillors and local Conservative MPs. Is this the right decision, or are the floating hotels a sinking idea? Then at 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time. Royal commentator Judita da Silva will be joining me to give her the latest from behind the palace walls. I made it sound much more than it is. It's da Silva. Sorry about that. King Charles is reportedly supporting an independent study to research the ties between the British monarchy and the slave trade in the 17th and 18th centuries. Stay tuned to find out more about that. Then at 5, it's this week's difficult conversation. And divorce coach Sarah Davison will be joining me live in the studio. As it's Easter bank holiday, everyone is out enjoying the spring weather with their loved ones and families. What about people who don't have anyone to spend their time with during these holidays? That's coming up in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panellists, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. Dowler.
That's what my old biology teacher used to do. Dowler. It's like you talking again.
Yes, well,
and it was.
You haven't stopped talking. It's like a little Muppet mouth going. Yes. That's what it looks like from the side. Well, the Muppets. Lizzie Cundy, it is. Yes. He's the one in the middle. Lizzie, what do you think about this? Seriously, your thoughts on Dylan Mulvaney? She is a man. Yes. Wearing a bra, like a sports bra, promoting a sports bra, without any breasts, of course, because he's a man. She's a man, sorry.
Well, I'm absolutely appalled by this, and you know what? When I speak out, I'm made to feel I can't speak about this, and I'm proud to be a woman, which is an adult female, just in case you're wondering, Sam. But I really seriously getting upset because I feel intimidated and silenced whenever I speak out about this issue, and this to me is absolutely woeful nonsense, and that's what it is. As someone who grew up in awe of Nike as a big iconic brand, I think this is absolutely disgusting, and they're going to have a big backlash from this. And I'll be honest, I really think this is a money-making machine. They're using the trans community that should be treated with kind and understanding, but using them as a way to promote themselves, just as Nicola Sturgeon did, using them as a political football. And it's not on, and it's disrespectful for women. And you know what? I've really had enough of it.
I've had enough
They're
of it.
raising women.
But to me, the way Dylan behaves in this video is a caricature of a woman anyway. It's all a bit... And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Sorry, that's actually taking the proverbial out of us. What do you think, Sam? I mean, you must be supportive.
Well, this is Dylan Mulvaney's brand. You know, she is she's a comedian, an actress. Do you know what I mean? This is these... And I've worked with a lot of influencers. Brand partnerships like this are their bread and butter. Like, she did one with Bud Light last week and then was slated for that. And Kid Rock did a video where he's shooting a case of Bud Light with an AK-47. I mean, like, this has nothing to do with her. It's not her problem. And I think and all that happens. Like, for example, I went on the GBNews Instagram account this morning because Dan was talking about it this week with Sharon Davies, and underneath the comments were, he's a freak. Dylan Mulvaney is one of those people you'd gladly punch for nothing. That's an it, not a she. It's a thing. Like, listen to me. So it is. Whereas this person is a 26-year-old person, and they are trying to, you know,
rich.
Well, like,
rich.
Well, they might be doing very well.
Are you about to make us supposedly feel sorry for this person?
No, what I'm saying, this is the trans person wearing leggings. Everybody needs to calm the hell down.
Sam, have you watched it?
Yes, of course I've watched all of it.
It's not a trans person wearing leggings. It is a trans person mimicking, caricaturing a woman.
That's what she does in her videos.
Promoting bras, sports bras for women.
And as a woman, I find it so disrespectful, Sam. I find it so and why are you sticking up?
How is it disrespectful? She has 12 million followers, most of who are women who will buy this because she's been wearing it. That's what Nike see. They see 12 million followers, and they want and all she does is talk about positivity and fun and laughter, and that's what Nike want to get into.
It's raising women.
It's not raising women.
It is.
The rest of Nike's Instagram feed are all cis white women, or just cis women in general.
Hey! Do not come into the studio and call me a cis woman. Otherwise, I would
call you a cis woman.
Cis women, do not use that term. Otherwise, I will eject you from the chair. A woman is a woman. I don't want to hear that again from your mouth.
Yes, that is what the rest of their feed is. So it's nothing to do with it's something to do with her. It's like, it's not her decision. It's Nike's decision, and she's just doing her job. So I mean, I think the attacks that she's had for it.
She looks like she's taking the total Mickey out of a woman. Have you seen her prancing and acting the way she is on that post?
She's a comedian.
Well, I don't find it funny.
That's what her videos are.
I don't find it funny, Sam.
Wait a minute. Whether she's a comedian or not, the point is that Nike are using a biological man to promote something that is really a properly female product. And what does that say to the other amazing female athletes that they could have selected, like Riley Gaines and people like that, who, whilst Nike obviously don't mean to cause any offence, but the backlash is, you saw the video of what happened to Riley Gaines. Yeah. She was chased out of this after doing a speech.
Well, I don't know what the context was for that, but
you see, the problem with it is that it promotes and it reinforces this kind of thing, and that's the problem for women.
And it's the biggest sports brand in the world. This is so wrong.
But she's not. You've already basically so many laws have already been passed, like, you know, various different sporting bodies, as Sharon Davies was talking about, where trans people aren't allowed to compete. So now you're saying that they're not allowed to wear women's sportswear either.
No,
so they can't compete or wear women's sportswear.
No, that's not what's been said.
It sounds like it.
You're putting words into my mouth.
That sounds like it. So tell me what it is. Should they just be erased altogether?
I'll tell you what's being said here. You do not need to use a trans woman to promote bras for women, because women could promote that themselves, and they don't need somebody who
Okay.
is not a woman to promote that, especially when
But they want to gain access to her followers
It's
who
offensive
love her,
to
love
women.
her, who love
It's
her
offensive
brand.
to women, and it's trying to erase women.
Well, we'll see.
It isn't fair.
We'll see whether it works for them. We'll see whether it works for them. But if you just joined us, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Great to have my panel. Right, after the break, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is it immoral housing migrants in barges? I mean, this is in light of the government's confirming its plans to house around about 500 single adult male asylum seekers in a barge docked just off the Dorset coast. I mean, send me your thoughts. What do you think? GBviews at gbnews.uk or tweet me at GBnews. I've got a poll up right now asking you that very question. Is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Cast your vote now. Back in a second.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching. Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you
I'll
are.
put that as my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's now time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Now, this week, the government confirmed that it plans to house around about 500 single adult male asylum seekers on a barge docked just off the Dorset coast. And that's despite opposition from local Conservative councillors and the local Conservative MP. Now, the plan is part of a Home Office drive to reduce the cost of housing asylum seekers, which currently is around about, was it, 6 million a day? Unbelievable. With the government currently spending, as I said, 6 million of our money a day, putting asylum seekers in hotels. However, refugee and human rights charities such as Amnesty International have condemned the idea of accommodating asylum seekers in this way. I spoke to Steve Valdez-Simmons on BBC Radio 2 the other day, and he thought it was horrendous. saying it's not appropriate accommodation for people fleeing war, and is yet another example of how the government have grossly mismanaged the asylum system. Migrants themselves are not overly fond of the idea either. They should be thankful. You'd think they would be if you're seeking shelter from the safety of France. But anyway, what do you think? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Well, joining me now is Peter Edwards, former editor of the Labour List, and also Anna McGovern, political commentator. Also joining me, Nana Akua, broadcaster and social commentator. Right, Anna, you're very high up. What's going on with you?
Oh, I don't know why I'm so high up. Try and sit down a bit.
Turn down a little bit. Right, well, I'm going to start with you, Peter Edwards. What do you think? Is it immoral? Are we doing something wrong?
I think we are doing something wrong. I think it's a sign of failure. You know, you would put animals offshore, and it's a bit like putting people in crates. I really don't like it. I think, why is the government so incompetent that it can't have decent quality accommodation on land? And then finally, when you look at some of the other migrant or refugee processing sites like Manston, they've been overcrowded and a haven for disease. So I've no confidence that if this ever happens, it will be safe.
Really? OK, Anna.
I think that it's not a question about morality. I think it demonstrates that the government have got immigration completely out of control. And I can understand with taxpayers as well. You know, $6 million a day to fund the hotels. It is getting completely expensive. And the Conservatives, they promised to get immigration under the control, and they simply haven't, because this problem is increasing and only getting worse.
Yeah, we know that, Anna.
Yeah.
What about the barges?
But, of course, I know. I'm just saying my point straight. But yeah, in terms of the barges, I think that when you're coming to this country illegally, you shouldn't expect a roof over your head just because you come in here and a hot meal. I think free hot meals. Yes, exactly. I don't think you should just be coming in here and expecting everything to be handed to you on a plate.
Why did you say illegally?
No,
why did you say illegally?
I can see Narinda's itching to speak.
Yes, I can imagine.
Narinda.
As a cis woman, Nana, I don't know why you
are. Not cis woman.
I'll get rid of you if you say cis again.
Okay. How does a floating barge provide respect, dignity and compassion? I think Britain can do better. We already have 51,000 in hotels. This is in addition to, this isn't just the barges on the road. This isn't going to solve any problem. We need to process the claims quicker.
We know that.
Problem. This is a smokescreen.
Yeah. Listen, Narinda, I agree with you. We need to process them faster. I think everyone agrees they need to be done much more quickly. But what's wrong with the barge? A barge is self-contained. They've got everything.
My understanding is it's a Bibi Stockholm. Now, this Bibi Stockholm back in 2000, Netherlands, was used, and an undercover investigation found that actually there was huge healthcare concerns. People even died. How can we have
Where did you get that from?
who have fled trauma?
No.
On a barge.
The Bibi Stockholm was used by people on oil rigs who stayed on it, and it's perfectly fine. I haven't heard of people dying on it. Peter?
But we've heard of people becoming unwell and contracting diseases that were avoidable in the Manston process.
How do you know they didn't have the disease before they got here?
Because there was an independent report on it produced for the Home Office.
Some of them brought the disease with them, though, so maybe they got the infections from others who were there. I mean, you can't work out how you...
It is accepted
we don't have TB and stuff like that. Some of the diseases that came were diseases that we have almost literally got rid of in this country.
Well, I think you're answering your own questions, but I'll have a go at answering it, which is an independent...
No, I was just saying, I was answering your question.
I didn't ask you one. An independent report for the Home Office said Manston was unsafe. It was shut down. So if the government can't provide safe facilities, why should we have confidence the barge will be safe?
Well, then you have no argument for anything. Everything could be unsafe with that argument. Anna?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think, and again, it just comes back to my original point. It's like, you should, if you're coming here, you shouldn't be expecting these things straight away just handed over to you. And personally, I don't personally see anything wrong with it. I think, as well, the expense is astronomical. But at the end of the day, I still think, I come back to my original point, the government need to get immigration under control.
We know that, Anna.
We know, but they're not doing it. That's why it's important we keep talking about it.
I know they need to get it under control, but right now, the best solution they've got so far to stop us paying $6 million a day is instead of hotels, barges. Narinda, there is nothing wrong with the barge. They can get off the barge. They have 3 meals a day. There is a gym. There is a games room. there's shelter, there's heat, there's people cooking for them, Nana.
And Anna, I don't like you keep saying, oh, people come to this country, what do they expect? Everything on a plate. They're not getting anything on a plate. It's an oppressive environment.
Except 3 meals a day and housing. But
that's nothing on a plate. They actually can lead the board, but not the board. I think it's a horrible place to live, to put people who have fled trauma, war, beatings, and they come and sit in there with no air conditioning. It's horrible.
No air conditioning.
Where'd you get this from?
I don't have air conditioning. They may well have air conditioning. I don't think anybody in the studio probably has air conditioning in their own home. Maybe you have, but that's possibly why you think a barge is horrendous. But there are women in single women refuges who have to have their kids in the same room. There are ex-servicemen who have mouldy homes with mould. There won't be mould on the Bibby Stockholm, so, you know, and it will be...
We don't know, actually. It's basic.
No, there won't be.
This environment is very basic. We don't actually know. It's the bottom of the bottom. And it's just to keep the baying crowds appeased. Oh, let's just put them in the worst kind of environment.
Where do you suggest, Narinda? Where? If not the Bibby Stockholm, if not the hotels, how about in your house? Will you take on an asylum seeker? You, Narinda, take on an asylum seeker?
No, actually, I wouldn't, because I've got young children. I've got a teenage daughter. No, I wouldn't. That's not the answer, Nana. You can't always say,
well, what is the answer?
You house them.
No.
That's not an answer.
I wouldn't take on I wouldn't. I would have them on barges, and actually I'd go further. I would actually put them on cruise ships, and they wouldn't be getting off the ship either. Peter Edwards.
But then that's cruel, actually,
Nana.
Cruel. That's very cruel. And Britain is better than that.
That's not cruel. These cruise ships are amazing. They'll have swimming pools and everything else like that, and I would make sure that the processing were faster. Peter Edwards.
Actually, Nana, if they do get poorly, it places a massive, massive strain on the local environment and community, the hospitals. We need to process it quickly. It is cruel, and there's no point saying to me,
that's why they should stay on the ship.
In your house. That's a distraction.
Peter Edwards,
the government are using distractions.
Narinda, Peter Edwards.
Well, Labour said it wanted to see faster processing because there's a huge backlog. But I think Narinda's right. There's a huge health and safety danger. I think perhaps to rephrase slightly what Narinda said, maybe it's about temperature control. If you're on a barge, there's a risk of overcrowding, as there was at Manston. It clearly has none of even the basic comfort to essentials of a hotel or a hostel.
Well, like what? You said basic. What do you mean the basic? Because they've got somebody cooking for them. They've got, so they get food, they've got a gym, they've got a games room, they've got their own room, or they may share with somebody, but that's fair enough. What are you defining as basic?
Well,
what's missing? They've got TV, they've got Wi-Fi. What's missing? What's missing in your view of basic?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure there's a gym on a barge. I think
there is a gym. There was a gym. I saw the pictures. They've showed the pictures of the gym and everything. What, in your view, is basic?
Again, they're probably more access to facilities than others.
I'm not answering my own questions. I've told you what's on the barge. You said they're not even getting basic facilities. I'm saying, what are you defining as basic? That's me asking you a question.
OK, so I think if you're fleeing a war zone or terrorism, you need a much greater level of support than being stuck on a barge in the middle of the sea with a bunch of strangers.
They're not stuck on a barge. They would always be with strangers because they're not going with their friends and family on this barge. So they'll always be there, and they can get off the barge.
How do you get off the barge if you can't swim?
No, they can get off the barge. It's moored there, but they can get off the barge. They don't have to stay on the barge. They can go into the village. They can come and go as they please, Peter.
OK, what do they do in the village with, I'd imagine, almost no money, no alternative accommodation, relatively few possessions? They may not have the necessary vaccination record. I think you've got to provide support for people who are fleeing war zones, not stick them on a boat.
Anna.
I think that they have more access to facilities than many other British people would be able to access. Like the fact they even have a gym on the barge, I didn't even know that. So I think they actually have access to much more facilities than most other people. And again, they're coming in here and actually getting quite, they're getting quite access to, quite high quality things in terms of that. So I think I genuinely think that this shouldn't be a debate really almost about morality, because you shouldn't be coming in here and expecting all of this, and if anything, they're probably getting quite good service.
Narinda.
Anna, you sound so deluded. Would you go and live on one then?
You don't have to insult me, Narinda.
Would you go and live there? Nana, would you go and live on a barge?
I would. I'd love to live on a barge.
No, you wouldn't.
And if I fled the perfect safety of France and came to the UK and I was given 3 meals a day, and I'd have a gym and everything else like that, and I could come and go as I please. I would be thankful.
I think there's many people as well, they can't afford their own homes. They can't even afford to have meals, and they're getting 3 meals a day.
They're getting food. They're getting people cooking for them.
Months and months sitting in one room on a board, on a floating board. I think it's disgraceful.
They're not sitting in one room. They're moving. But some people in this country live like that, and that's how they live. Yeah, there are people who live like that in this country. Narinda, no, there are people in this country who live like that. They don't get 3 meals cooked for them. They don't get their heating, electric paid for them. They don't have a games room. They don't have a gym. That's in there. It's all there.
But that's an argument saying because we have poverty in Britain, we should therefore stuff the asylum seekers as well. That's not fairness, is it?
So you think that really what we should do is give them a better standard of living than a large population in this country? Is that what you're saying, Peter?
No, I did not say that.
Well, what are you saying then? Because that sounds what it sounds
I was trying to demolish your daft argument. Because there's poverty in Britain, we therefore shouldn't offer human rights and fairness to people who are asylum seekers.
No, now, you see, I think you've missed the point, Peter. My point was this, that actually what they have is a good basic standard of living, more than many people in this country have, and other people who live in this country would be thankful and grateful and wouldn't expect something for nothing.
Well, you don't know that because it hasn't commenced yet.
Thank you very much. I'll give you the last word, Narinda, since you've gone.
The Ukrainians that came over, the 200,000, why didn't you put them on barges? Why didn't you take them then?
OK, fair enough. They didn't, but people took them into their homes. Unlike you, you're not prepared to do it. Thank you very much, Narinda Kaur, a broadcaster and social commentator, also Anne McGovern, political commentator, and Peter Edwards, former editor of The Labour List. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Well, there you go. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, we'll continue with our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? We'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also political commentator Sam Dowler. Then stay tuned because at 5, it's this week's Difficult Conversation. I'll be speaking to divorce coach Sarah Davidson, who'll be joining me live in the studio to talk about Easter and the Easter holidays and how lonely it can be for people who may feel isolated without their family. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom at 4:34. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Greenhill area of Sheffield on Wednesday evening. The boy, who cannot be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. Nicola Sturgeon says she has not been questioned by police following the arrest of her husband. Former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. In her first comments since his arrest, the former First Minister said the last few days have been obviously difficult, but she intends to get on with her life and with her job. The NHS Confederation is warning 250,000 appointments could be postponed due to a 4-day strike by junior doctors next week. Medics in England will walk out immediately after the Easter bank holiday weekend in an ongoing dispute over pay. The Department of Health and Social Care insists that the industrial action must be called off before any negotiations can take place. And the comedian Gareth Richards has died at the age of 41. The former radio co-host of Frank Skinner suffered serious brain injuries after being involved in a car accident 2 weeks ago. His wife announced his death on social media, saying he was well loved. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon, 36 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't joined me, where have you been? Stay with me, because coming up, the King has supposedly given his full backing to a study into the royal family's historic links to the slave trade. And then at 5, we'll be discussing that in Royal Roundup. Then at 5, it's this week's Difficult Conversation, and divorce coach Sarah Davidson will be joining me live in the studio. We're talking about the Easter holidays and whether about people feeling isolated. But stay tuned for the Great British Debate. Is it immoral to house migrants on barges?
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Welcome back. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, it's time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? The government have confirmed that its plans to house around about 500 single adult males who have crossed the Channel on barges, and on one barge in particular, just off the Dorset coast, as part of its plans to reduce the cost of accommodating asylum seekers whilst their claims are being processed. However, the plans have met with opposition by local Conservative MPs and also the refugee charities alike, with Amnesty International saying that the barge was not appropriate accommodation for people fleeing war and was yet another example of how the government has grossly mismanaged the asylum system. Although people fleeing war are refugees, aren't they? Asylum seekers are people who are seeking asylum from fear of persecution, and migrants are usually economic migrants. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Right, let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler. Sam, did I come to you first last time?
No, you went to Lizzie first.
Well, I'll come to Lizzie again.
Yes. Indeed.
Is it wrong? Is it immoral?
Is it immoral? It's such a difficult subject because, I mean, we shouldn't even be in this position. When they say about the however many millions a day, keeping them in hotels, I mean, like, these hotels are at an average cost of £120 per person.
150.
Yeah, which is obviously more than I would pay for a travel lodge when I go to somebody's wedding, do you know what I mean? So it's like, this is...
You've invited to weddings?
Somebody will have you.
But this is a lot of money, like I mean, they should be speeding up the processing. That's what they should be doing. They should be focusing mainly on that.
We agree with that, but in the meantime, you've got the 400 came over the other day, so your numbers are still increasing.
Look, this is a 3-story vessel named the Bibi Stockholm, and it's going to be berthed just off Portland. And so like this on this very ship, a person died, and there's been reports of rape and abuse on board when it was used for by the Dutch government to detain asylum seekers. So I mean.
But who's committing the assaults?
Yeah, of course.
In on the
of course, and this is all going to be men as well.
Perhaps actually, maybe the people on that those were people who were criminals. So some of them may have been.
Well, it's all going to be men, isn't it?
Yeah, but the fact that other people committed other crimes whilst on that boat is not really any argument to say that somebody else shouldn't be on that boat. That's like saying you can't live in that house. Somebody died in the house.
I just think they are straight out the fireplace into the fire. Really, I mean, it's frying pan.
From France.
Well, yeah.
France, you've come to a bar.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I think we should get our money back from France.
But is it really what we should be doing to make their lives more miserable so that they don't come over on the boats? Is that the plan?
We need a deterrent. We need a deterrent.
Well, Rwanda ain't it.
Well, you know what, Sam? It has to happen, and this is why I've always said from the start we need to get rid of the European judges and make sure that plane from Rwanda takes off. But look, one barge, that's enough to house one day's intake of migrants slightly, and that's the problem. And what's it going to be like? It's going to be like a scene from that movie Waterworld with Kevin Costner, with all the boats, in every port.
Back there, babes.
There are so many, and what about the 160,000 that are still awaiting to be processed? And as Sam said, the processing needs to be dealt with. We need to turn back. Listen, the barges, our own people and the homeless sleep on the street. They've got pool tables in there. Look, but if there's one deterrent, but what they've got to do, the government, look at the grassroots, look at the gangs, why this is happening. You've got to stop the gangs. With no gangs, there's no crossings. They have to do something. They've done too much talk, waffle, and no action for too long.
It's like putting a plaster on a broken archery.
Yeah.
I just put a plaster on it.
Because it's just gushing. Like the problems are, there's so many moving parts with this. Like, where are we going to put them? We have to stop them coming over. Like, and it just feels
not a solution.
No, exactly. And they're like, oh, now barges. I mean, like nothing's working.
The barge solution is a small ripple in the ocean, basically.
It is.
It's how are you going to do it? And every port is going to be barges everywhere.
Listen, I mean, look, they're trying to save some sort of money because otherwise we're going to have to carry on paying money for hotels. So
we're running out of hotels.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the thing as well. And they know they will run out of hotels as this carries on, and they can't afford it. We can't afford it. So they haven't done the basic and background stuff, which is processing quickly, which I would, like I said, I would literally fire all those civil servants. A lot of them are going on strike at the moment, which I think is absolutely
Why isn't there a team of them doing it?
But they apparently are processing, I think it was 9 every week or something. I mean, I would have their pay so it's performance pay.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Correct. But they should have 5 days of process, and take and out. And we have to take a leaf out of Australia's way, what they did with turning back the boats. The thing is, we gave so much money to France. What are France doing exactly with that money? Withdraw the money from France.
It's the Tories in general, like with the whole PPE debacle. They seem to be able to waste money like it's going out of fashion.
Well,
they do nothing but poke money at a situation and it goes straight down the drain.
Keir Starmer in his 5 points didn't even mention the immigration problem, did he? What was he actually going to do? Because I'd love to know.
He hasn't mentioned it at all.
No, because he sits on the fence.
He's not in power. Let's just not forget about that.
What's that got to do with it? Listen, if I'm going to give you a job as the leader of a party that are going to guide this country to safety, I want to know what you're going to do about one of the biggest problems that the country is providing. And if you don't open your mouth about it, then you also can't define a woman.
Exactly.
And I'm afraid I'm struggling to even trust you. You might do that, Sam, because you're a man, so it's OK. If you couldn't define a man, you might...
He did it that one interview. You can't keep bashing him with that. He was
so embarrassing.
9% of women don't have a penis.
We should replay that video.
Do.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing. I don't want the leader of our country not to know what a woman is.
We're not discussing that now.
And I don't want him not to mention
we're talking about the barges
we have in this country, which was immigration.
But none of you have answered the question whether it's immoral.
No, it's not immoral. It's not moral at all. The homeless are sleeping on the streets. Our own people are sleeping on the streets. It's not immoral.
Is it immoral?
I don't think it's immoral. I mean, I don't think it's right, but I don't think we have any other solution. No one else is coming up with any other solution. So, I mean, to say it's immoral would mean that the situation within these barges was terrible, and it was like a prison, and they were going to get dysentery like they were in those last places. If as long as their human rights are being respected and, you know, it's clean and it's safe, then it's not immoral.
But look, we've got to deal with a real problem here and deal with it quick and proper. This is just another gimmick to me, I'm sorry.
Another gimmick.
It is.
It's another gimmick, yes, it is. But what do we do? What is the solution? This show is nothing without you and your views. Let's find out what you think. Let's welcome our great British voices. Your opportunity to be on the show and tell us what you think about the topics we're discussing. And I'm going to head over to Bristol and have a chat with Lee Harris. This Easter, he's taken his time out to talk to us. Lee, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Right, Lee, so what do you think? Is it immoral to house them on barges?
Of course it's not immoral, Nana. You're absolutely right about the barge in question. The people criticising it simply haven't done their research. You know, as you rightly pointed out, the Bibby Stockholm is described as luxury accommodation with quality dining, TV, Wi-Fi, ensuite bathroom facilities, and has leisure and relaxation areas on board. According to their website, which I've got up in front of me now, the Bibby Stockholm was recently chartered for a 10-month contract by a company to provide accommodation for workers developing the new Shetland gas plants. They gave it glowing reviews. The workers liked it so much they extended the contract for another 8 months. So the the quality of the accommodation is not a problem. The real question is it morally right for the public to pay £6 million a day to house illegal migrants in hotels? And the obvious answer is absolutely not. Putting migrants in hotels is a huge pull factor. And people have literally died trying to illegally cross the channel. Is that morally right? Of course it's not. You know, the current situation and the numbers of people entering this country illegally is simply not sustainable. At the moment, the message is, come to Britain, and this is genuine. This is straight from the government website, which is actually available for everyone to look at. So you can read this yourself. And the message is, come to Britain. You're going to get a weekly allowance, put up in a hotel, get free healthcare, free prescriptions, free dental care, free eye tests, a school place for your children, and you are very, very unlikely to be removed. All these benefits, by the way, are exactly the same whether you're accepted for asylum or you're refused for asylum. They're almost identical, slightly less allowance, but it's pretty much the same. You know, the only way to tackle illegal immigration is to deter people from wanting to come. You know, if they're refused entry to the UK and eventually sent to Rwanda, they're less likely to pay criminals thousands of pounds to illegally enter the UK. If the deterrent works, it means we can protect life, save money on hotel bills, and eventually, you know, regain control over a really clogged up immigration system.
Yeah,
something needs to be done.
Something needs to be done. I think we're going to do something on the Home Office soon because I'm not happy with the fact that they're taking so long to do so little. Thank you so much, Lee. Lovely to talk to you. That's Lee Harris. He's our great British voice. Well, today I've been asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? Lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Who's that? This is Sarah. Sarah says, how can it be immoral to house migrants in a barge with 3 square meals a day, a comfortable bed, luxury gym and much more? It must seem like heaven to most of them. Exactly. I mean, come on, seriously, is it? Pool table.
We also don't know if they can use all the facilities.
Oh, why not?
I mean, like what the gentleman just said there. Like, you know, obviously, what they get on the website is for that's for tourists. I'm not sure.
You can't use that.
I don't think they're going to get quite the same. They're not going to get quite the same treatment. Like there's some sort of you know.
Yeah. Let's see. Come on, Sam. Phil says a lot is being said about substandard accommodation for migrants. This form of military accommodation was perfectly fit for service personnel for years, including barges following the Falklands conflicts. Shows how little we now value our military. Well, exactly, I'd agree with that as well. Yeah. Some of our most beautiful landmarks, army bases and things like that being used when the blame lies at the feet of the Home Office. It really does.
It really does.
Every time.
You know,
Every time.
You can't book a mini weekend away. You can't book a wedding. Our hotels have been taken up. You know, it's really disgusting.
Have you found
what's
that?
happening.
Yes. Do you not be able to book a travel?
No, because we can't. A lot of these hotels were used swimming places and for the local community. But now
I've got one locally. Our hotels now.
Right, well, Jean says, I'm sick of hearing about the poor quality of life of illegal immigrants. I don't see much hand-wringing by the left-wingers about our own homeless people.
Exactly.
Why are we bending over backwards to help the boat people when our own people would be far more than grateful for a weekly cash subsidy, 3 hot meals a day and a bed for the night in very comfortable accommodation? Unfortunately, the British are seen by the rest of the world as a soft touch. That's why they all want to come here. Well, here.
Well done, Jane.
Yeah, Jane.
Jane.
Well done, Jane. Billie Jean.
Then was seen as a soft touch. How can be a soft touch and you know, empire obsessed? Which one is it?
I don't know, but it looks like King Charles is going to be paying reparations. So
Oh, don't talk about that.
Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, I'll be speaking to royal commentator Judith De Silva on what the latest on the royal family. Then, for difficult conversations, Sarah Davison, divorce coach, will be joining me live. We'll be discussing loneliness during the Easter holidays. That's on the way.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm still thinking about the air conditioning, everyone. Have you got air conditioning at your home? If you just tuned in, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, there is always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. King Charles is reportedly supporting an independent study into the ties between the British monarchy and the slave trade in the 17th and 18th century. And the 4 King Georges will reportedly be the focus of the review. And as the invitations for the coronation are sent out, it's been revealed that Camilla will be referred to as Queen following the coronation. Then, in a new book on the royals, it's reported that Kate, the Princess of Wales, described the royal walkabout that she did with her husband, Prince William, and Harry and Meghan outside Windsor Castle following the Queen's death as the hardest thing that she'd ever had to do. But every Saturday I love to give you a rundown. Who better to do that than, of course, royal commentator Judith De Silva, who joins me now. Judith, thank you for joining me. Right, so Judith, talk to me about this then. So let's start at the top then. Where do you want to start? Should we talk about... Let me see. How about the independent study that's looking into slavery? Yes.
It's an interesting one because I think that the brand, we're starting to see the brand of King Charles is going to be the frugal king, the conscious king, the conservative king. He knows he's not going to be the likable king. That's a fait accompli. But when you look at this, I think he's about to kick a hornet's nest because it's very focused to the 17th and 18th centuries. That's how you have the Hanovers and you have the 4 King Georges. Compare England, Britain to America. When it comes to the resolution of the sentiment around slavery, it's kind of beyond the point of apologies. It's down to economics. In America, when they talked about the government reneging on 40 acres on a mule, America was built by slaves. How do you pay the people who built America for doing that job? What's the equivalence today? That's the discussion. In Britain, when you think of the royal family's treasury, the profits of the slave trade funded the treasury. So now you're dealing with economics and getting down to brass tacks. You then have to have the conversation about the economics of the royal family. And with the Hanovers, you have Queen Anne start to use the South Sea Company to supply African slaves to the colonies of Spain. A lot of profit was made, and that was perpetuated by the 4 King Georges. And that is why they're being investigated. That kind of profit, where literally millions of slaves which were couriered from Africa to South America, then you're beginning to understand the kind of money that was made off Black lives.
Interesting, though. But I mean, obviously, right now we are buying things from places like China, and we wear clothes that are probably made in sweatshops in India, and so on and so forth. Do you think that perhaps you should just take the focus off that and stop doing it, because we are all benefiting from things that are created by some level of slave trade somewhere right now?
Again, I'm a cynic. I believe that we're not going to all as Black people form a line and I'm getting checks for what happened. That's not going to happen. But it's an understanding of there has to be accountability and honesty about the history of Britain. And that's something that Britain has been able to avoid because there's always been this narrative that we're not like America. And it's simply because Britain kept its mess in the Caribbean and in the Americas, and America kept its mess in its backyard. So my perspective is this is about conversation, honest conversation, and a full accountability of what actually happened. As far as money being received, I doubt it will ever happen.
Yeah, it shouldn't. I think let's just leave it alone. At least tell the true story, the actual story, the full story. What do you think about Camilla? She's been referred to as Queen after the coronation. Is that a welcome change? Is it going down well?
I think this is where Charles is starting to show his hand, not being the most prudent with the choices he's making. It's a very dangerous game because remember the overarching narrative that's going to be haunting Charles throughout his reign is you have an entire country that hasn't forgotten Princess Diana. And this reign will mark everyone pretty much saying this was meant to be Diana's time. And as they feel that pain, they feel that loss, they feel that nostalgia, they're confronted with the optics of Camilla on a throne. And she's the queen consort, but we are being told to call her queen. That is a further dagger in the heart of a country that truly loved the woman who should have been there.
Really, just saying, crikey. Well, listen, Judith, I could talk to you for longer. Next time we'll have longer, but we're running out of time. Judith De Silva, she's a royal commentator. Thank you so much for your thoughts. That, of course, was the Royal Roundup. This is GB News. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? You've missed a couple of hours, but it's fine because we've got loads more still to come. Stay with me. So it's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. On the way, our Great British Debate. And I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? The Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry has become the latest high-profile Labour politician to defend a party advert claiming Rishi Sunak did not think that people convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. I'll be joined by some fiery debating guests. Then, of course, 5 o'clock, difficult conversation. Sarah Davison will be joining me live in the studio. We'll be discussing Easter and loneliness. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. It's just gone 5 o'clock. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Nicola Sturgeon says she has not been questioned by police following the arrest of her husband. Former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. In her first comment since his arrest, the former First Minister said she intends to get on with her life and with her job.
Much as there are things I might want to say, I'm not able to do so, other than to say that, as has been the case, there will continue to be full cooperation. The last few days have been obviously difficult, quite traumatic at times, but I understand that is part of a process.
The NHS Confederation is warning 250,000 appointments could be postponed due to a 4-day strike by junior doctors next week. Medics in England will walk out immediately after the Easter bank holiday weekend in an ongoing dispute over pay. The British Medical Association says the industrial action could still be avoided if the government makes a credible offer. But the Department of Health and Social Care insists the strikes must be called off before any negotiations can take place. Meanwhile, teachers in England who belong to the NAS-UWT union are to be reballoted on strike action after they've rejected the government's latest pay offer. 87% of members turned down a one-off payment of £1,000 and an average pay rise of 4.5%. It comes as a new survey revealed that teachers work in an average of 54 hours a week, with 83% saying their job has adversely affected their mental health. Chris McGovern is chairman for the Campaign for Real Education. He told us pay improvements are needed.
Teaching is an energising job, or it should be, and if it's depressing you, you shouldn't be in the job, because good teachers have to be happy teachers, and of course happy teachers have to be well paid. But you know, within the school budget, there is plenty of money to pay teachers a good salary. The majority of staff in schools are not teachers, so we need to shift some of the money from the non-teaching staff to the teachers, and we could solve the problem. But that's called thinking outside the box, and the Department for Education, which I've advised over decades, isn't very good at that, I'm afraid.
A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation following an appearance at the city's youth court. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Green Hill area on Wednesday evening. The boy, who can't be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. An asylum seeker from Afghanistan has appeared in a Belfast court charged with the murder of a Romanian woman. 26-year-old Habib Shamel is accused of stabbing 27-year-old Gila Ibram to death. Her body was found at a home in Limerick within the Republic of Ireland on Tuesday. The judge refused bail, calling the charge very grave. Shamel has been granted legal aid and is due back in court next month. More than 850 community and charity representatives from across the country have been invited to the King's coronation on the 6th of May. 450 recipients of the British Empire Medal have been asked to attend the service at Westminster Abbey. Meanwhile, 400 young people will watch from St Margaret's Church. Marine Constable Dawn Wood from Essex Police told us she received her invitation by email.
I initially opened it, I thought, who on earth is playing a joke on me? There's going to be, I'm going to find out that I'm going to turn up to the palace and I wasn't really supposed to be there. But yeah, I've made a few phone calls since and yeah, so excited. Absolutely. I just can't believe that I've been selected. What an honour.
The US is promising to train Taiwan's armed forces as China continues military exercises around the island that Beijing claims as its territory. The House Foreign Affairs Committee also pledged to speed up the delivery of weapons. China's military drills began a day after Taiwan's president visited the United States. Taiwan claims 71 Chinese planes and 9 ships have crossed the Taiwan Straits median line today. And the comedian Gareth Richards has died after being involved in a car accident last month. The 41-year-old was the former radio co-host of Frank Skinner. He suffered serious brain injuries in the crash. His wife took to social media to say it was a miracle he made it to hospital alive and that he sadly passed away yesterday evening. The comedian Jason Manford has paid tribute, describing him as a wonderfully inventive and funny comedian, but more importantly, a kind and thoughtful man. You're up to date on GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens now. It's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online, on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler. Still to come, it's my difficult conversation. Today, I'll be joined in the studio by divorce coach Sarah Davidson to discuss how loneliness can affect us all during the Easter holiday. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? Now, the Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry become the latest high-profile Labour politician to defend a party advert claiming that Rishi Sunak did not think people convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. What do you think? Are Labour being hypocritical? As ever, email me your thoughts, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet me at gbnews. But it's now time for this week's difficult conversation. And of course, it is the Easter holiday weekend and everyone is enjoying the spring weather. It's lovely out there. It's great. But with their loved ones and friends and family. But what about the people who don't have anyone to spend time with during the holidays? Are you feeling lonely? Stay with us. We've got so much to do. You don't need to leave. GB News will be by your side. It's very devastating for some individuals, and studies show that it can lead to depression and anxiety. So for a season about rejoicing and eating chocolate, it's arguably less enjoyable doing it all by yourself. Although I'm a loner. I quite like it. Well, joining me to talk about this is divorce coach Sarah Davidson. Sarah, nice to see you, darling.
Oh, nice to be back. Thanks, Nana.
So what is it then? I know I've got a friend, a really good friend of mine, and she cannot be on her own at all. Like, literally. She's like, OK, I'm going to go see some friends now. Like, even if there's 10 minutes, I've got 10 minutes I've got to do. Whereas I love my own company. If I had an Easter to myself, I'd be on my own. But some people can't handle it, and actually some people don't have such full lives to actually be on their own in that way, especially if they've just been divorced.
Yeah, if you're going through a breakup, any time like this, like Easter, which is traditionally a time to be with your family, if they're not there or you're going through a breakup, that shines a light on being alone. And for some people, that's really tough. You have a great strength, lots of energy, you're super busy, so it's great that you can cope. A lot of people find it really hard to be on their own, and even for half an hour. You know, some people really find that incredibly hard, especially if they've been with someone for so long, for years and years. They're not used to it.
Well, what is it like for you? Because you, a lot of people might not know your story. So talk to me about your story, because you're a divorce coach, but people might not know how you came to do that.
Yes, so about 13 years ago, I was married. I've been married for about 3 years, and I found out that my husband no longer wanted to be married to me. And not only that, he'd found someone else, was madly in love, and they set about starting a family very, very soon after that.
God, that's tough, isn't it? Like, they've just gone off and that's it.
It was devastating because I didn't see it coming. And I think I've found out since that that's the way it happens for so many people. You're sort of trucking along. You know things aren't great, maybe in some areas, but you think you'll work through it. You've got married, you said your vows, and that means you'll overcome anything. And I think that hit me like a freight train. And I was already coaching at that point, and I was doing a lot of that ugly crying I've told you about before.
Told me about that.
Yeah, that really, you just look horrendous. But I did a lot of that.
I used to do that, but in the mirror, to see how I looked. Is it that bad? Do I look ugly?
It's pretty bad. But, you know, coming through that, I realised I had a choice. And this is what I talk about a lot now. You know, it's not what happens to you in life that defines you. It's what you do about it that makes you the person you are. So you can go through really tough times, and that can define you. But if you decide to turn that around and make it even your superpower, then it's possible to go on and be happy and confident and move on.
But what about, like, Easter? So, like, poignant moments like now? Because, you know, like, you've got Christmas, you've got Easter, you've got all those big sort of moments, those emotional moments. What did you do? Your first Easter, your first Christmas, and what was that like?
I think you've really got a plan. Like, for me, like, even this weekend, I'm years down and I had my family over, I had friends over. You've got a plan for your weekends, because otherwise that being alone can really hit you. But I'm very comfortable, like you, in my own space now. I love being able to choose what I watch on television. But a lot of people say to me...
Was he in charge of the remote?
Exactly. But a lot of people will focus on it glass half full and see the same situation, but like, oh, my goodness, I'm on my own all weekend. What am I going to do? For me, I'm like, oh, OK, I've got some time to myself. What can I do that I'm going to enjoy? So it really is about changing the way you look at things. It's not always easy, though, I get that, but there are things you can do to make that easier.
Like buy yourself a load of Easter eggs and smash them with a hammer. 10 in a row. See how fast you can go.
They've actually got rooms now. Have you seen them? They're like rooms you can go and smash things up.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, you can actually pay to go in and break everything in there. It's great for anger management and just releasing some of that tension.
Yeah, you know, I'd probably go, oh, no, I don't want to break that. I want to spoil it. That's really nice. Probably try and put the things back together again and time myself. So talk to me about what you do then, because, you know, people often think, OK, so I've been through a breakup, you know, I mean, do you use dating apps and stuff like that over the Easter? I was reading about one MP, a Labour MP, who was saying that she got divorced and then she ended up using, like, dating apps and she's currently with someone and stuff. Well, what's your take on these dating apps?
Look, I think it's great to build your confidence, you know, but you've got to be aware. And before you go on them, you've really got to work out what you want, because otherwise you're going to repeat the same patterns over and over again. So taking some time out to work out, you know, what you want, but also what you need from a relationship. So you might need emotional intelligence, you might need loyalty, you might need more kindness than maybe your last partner. So if you know that when you're going in, you can kind of interview them, if you like, to sort of figure out, are these people going to be compatible with me? But I think dating apps are a good way to start that sort of flirting, getting to know people.
Are you on any?
I am.
Really?
Yeah. I know you're not, though.
I can't do that. They'll already, like, if I go on a date, they'll Google me, they go, I don't like her. She said this about that and that about that. And all now, I don't agree with that. At least you're more of a mystery to them, so they might, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun, you know. I don't think I've had any success with dating apps, but it's actually interesting to see how they work, because there's new ones coming out all the time. So it's interesting for me.
Well, they don't want you to find someone. Dating apps don't want you to find someone. Their whole raison d'etre is that you don't find someone. And even if you have found someone on their app, they still send you other possibilities. What about this one?
Yes, exactly. And also, they always send the one that they think you're going to like, but I'm not sure if they're actually real to start with. And then you start flicking, and then they gradually get less and less attractive. So it's an interesting one. But the thing is, it's not just about looks. You've got to go deeper than that. And so that's why...
Why? I didn't need to go deeper than the looks. Anyway, I don't notice what guys look like, to be fair. And that's not my first thing that I look at. I sort of look... Obviously, you've got to be attracted to them to start with.
Yeah.
But the first thing that I think is, how much money you got?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but
joking.
looking for what you need, I think, is important if you're going to date anyone, rather than just running into something because there is that physical attraction. Unless that's what you want. You can always go for Mr. Right Now or Miss Right Now. That's OK as well, to build your confidence.
And the signs for a narcissist, what are they?
Oh, there's a lot of them. So, too good to be true, that love bombing in the early days where you're amazing, they make you feel incredible, putting you on a pedestal, grandiose promises of being, you know, looking after you forever. Really, that is, if it feels too good to be true, usually it is. The mask will start to slip. And I think the important thing is, believe them when they show you who they really are, because they will. There will be signs, there will be warning signs. And very often we think, oh, I can change them. When they get to know me, they'll be different with me than they were with their last partner. But rarely is that true.
It's always good to find out why they left the last one as well.
Yeah, but actually with a narcissist, you're not going to find that out. They'll tell you the version of the story that's going to work to reel you in. So the reality you won't know. So again, watching out for signs of being dishonest, deceit, lies, again, anything like that. As soon as that comes up, deploy your parachute, exit the building, do not stay around to change.
Look, because sometimes you get reeled in, you think, oh, well, no, they are nice, and they're not. Well, they're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Listen, Sarah, so what have you got coming up, and how do people find out more about what you're doing?
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm running a 2-day retreat, actually, in June, where people can come live with me for 2 days. It's a way to fast-track you through your breakup. But we also do lots of online support groups as well. So if you are alone this weekend and struggling, you can always jump on one of those. They're free, so you can come on and see how they work.
So online support group, where do they find that? It's a free one? It's free.
Yeah, it's free. It's free for a while, so you can join for about 8 hours and get some help and support. So saradavison.com is my website, or Sarah Davison Divorce Coach on Instagram.
Well, listen, Sarah, it's very lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
There you go, a little bit of Easter cheer. If you're about to break up with someone or they've broken up with you, don't worry, don't panic, because Sarah's got all the answers. Right, so coming up, it's our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? Now, the Shadow Attorney General, Emily Thornby, has become the latest high-profile Labour politician to defend a party advert claiming that Rishi Sunak did not think that people convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. But what do you think? I mean, seriously, can they really be saying that? Should those in glass houses not be throwing stones? All of that after this.
Hello there, I'm Jonathan Vaughtry here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. Hope you've been enjoying the Easter weekend so far. There has been plenty of fine weather and we'll continue to see more of that into Sunday. There are fronts out in the Atlantic that are slowly going to make their progress towards the UK, but high pressure is keeping them at bay for the moment, keeping things fairly fine and settled. Just a bit more of a breeze across western areas, and that will be strengthening as we head throughout the rest of this evening and through tonight. But many of us will remain dry and with some clear intervals. Some low cloud pushing into parts of eastern England and Scotland as well, maybe a few fog patches around, but with the breeze and the increasing cloud, temperatures won't drop too far. Most towns and cities will hold up around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. Could be a bit of a murky start again in the east, but as the breeze again strengthens here, that should hopefully help lift some of that cloud out of the way. And most of England, Wales and Scotland should see some sunny intervals throughout the day. The sunshine, though, will be turning hazy as this cloud from the west pushes in, and we'll see some outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland later on. Temperatures climbing up compared to Saturday, around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, but in that strengthening breeze, it will just take the edge off the feel of things. It's into the overnight period where we'll start to see that rain push more widely across the rest of the UK. Could be some heavier bursts on that across Scotland into parts of northern England as well. Then as we head into the early part of Monday, it will be clearing its way off the far southeast, potentially just lingering here for a little while throughout the morning and into the start of the afternoon. Behind that, though, many of us will see a barrage of showers push their way in on Monday, and some of those could be heavy at times with the risk of some hail and thunder, and generally that sets us up for the scene of some unsettled weather throughout the rest of the week. We do have our eyes on this area of low pressure that could bring some slightly stronger winds, particularly in the south and west as we head Tuesday night into Wednesday, so do just keep up to date with the forecast in regards to that. Otherwise, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you've just joined us, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time for our Great British Debate this hour. Now, I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? The Shadow Attorney General, Emily Thornberry, has become the latest high-profile Labour politician to defend a party advert claiming that Rishi Sunak did not think people convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. Now, obviously, that's a ridiculous thing to say, and the Prime Minister was responsible for broken justice. A broken justice system was what she said. However, her comments indicate a growing rift in the Labour front bench over the tweet, with Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell appearing to distance herself from the ad when she appeared on GB News yesterday.
You know, these are election graphics. These are political graphics, which, as I say, are not something that I designed or wrote. Well, look, they're not my words. They're not words I've chosen.
And former Labour Shadow Chancellor John MacDonald also criticised the ad, saying that the Labour Party should remove the ad because it was better than this. I wonder. The party has also been accused of rank hypocrisy. Do you remember the backlash when Boris Johnson said this about Keir Starmer?
This leader of the opposition, a former director of public prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, so he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
Or the backlash when the Conservative Party was criticised for calling Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite and a terrorist sympathiser for his links to Hamas. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? Well, to debate this, I'm joined by former Brexit MEP and political commentator Belinda Lucy and former Labour MP Dennis McShane and also former Minister Anne Widdecombe. Right, so I'm going to start with you, Anne. Your views on this particular tweet.
Well, it's in very poor taste indeed, and it is indefensible nonsense. A lot of the figures they quote actually go back to 2010, when Rishi Sunak was barely an MP, never mind Prime Minister. I think it will be counterproductive for Labour, which is why, of course, some Labour politicians are distancing themselves as they recognise the damage that it will do. But I do think it's rich. I mean, coming from Keir Starmer, who is actually in charge of the Crown Prosecution Service. And don't let's forget Harriet Harman, who, when she was working for the National Council of Civil Liberties, actually, not she personally, but the Council of Civil Liberties allowed affiliation from the paedophile information exchange. Now, you know, the fact is, everybody's got something that you can throw at them. But this, as far as I can see, is baseless. I mean, Rishi Sunak does not believe, or it's news to me if he does not believe that people who sexually assault children shouldn't go to prison. I've never heard him say that. I've never seen him do anything which suggests that he thinks that.
Dennis.
Well, I'm almost in entire agreement with Anne Widdecombe. I'm trying to work and think very fast. How on earth I'm not completely in agreement with dear Anne, but she is right. I think all of these things redound badly on parties. Now, she'll understand this as a former MP. I was out and canvassing for Labour this afternoon in the centre of London, very important constituency for us to win. Knocked on lots of doors, we've all done it. Nobody mentioned it. And very often the party high commands, both sides, come up with a stunt or a gimmick. I mean, Suella Braverman is a stunt queen on migrants at the moment, and the public just don't give a monkey's. So I myself found this distasteful. It's ridiculous to say that Rishi Sunak wouldn't send child sex abusers to prison, or Keir Starmer, or me, or you, or Anna, or Nana, or anybody. So why do it when you get into the gutter? But we're in the gutter anyway. Last week, we had Suella Braverman saying, and I'm quoting, gangs, white English girls are being pursued, raped, drugged and harmed by gangs of British Pakistani men. There are 1.5 British Pakistanis in a million in our country, and to insult them all was absolutely unacceptable.
Were those her exact words, Dennis?
White English girls were being pursued, raped, drugged and harmed by gangs of British Pakistani
And you've taken it out of context because she was literally talking about Rotherham, wasn't she?
No, she wasn't. She was using it as a generalisation. There were 5 people sent to prison in Rotherham. I do know about that. 9 in Rochdale. And every study, official study, every study shows that the vast majority of these horrible sex crimes, like the ones in Wolverhampton, the West Midlands last week, are committed by white people. So she is targeting Muslims, Pakistanis, and it's playing to that gutter. Anne will remember as well when the Tories ran a campaign to get themselves elected in 1966 with a man in Worley in the West Midlands with the slogan, if you want a N-word, we can't use it, Nana, an N-word. If you want an N-neighbour, vote Labour. And he wasn't sanctioned at all by the Tory party. Thank God they lost that election. And I don't think these Sunak ads will make one bit of difference. I wish Labour wouldn't do it.
Belinda Lucy.
I think there's a reason that the general population don't really trust Labour when it comes to grooming gangs. Because to be honest, Dennis, what you've just said, number one, I don't think Suella mentioned Muslims at all. So I think that's not quite right. Number two, statistics prove that 84% of grooming gangs are British Pakistani men, where they only represent in the country about 1%. Now, surely, if your priority was protecting and defending these girls, we need to scrutinise and investigate all possible reasons, cultural or not, or any kind of statistics that will help us protect girls in the future. Yet Labour and the left seem to want to pretend these statistics don't exist. Of course, paedophiles are majority white in a majority white country, but specifically grooming gangs. Statistics prove British Pakistani men are overrepresented. And actually, I think it's an insult to say this is, in any way prejudice against Pakistanis. My Pakistani friends are as disgusted at what happened in these areas that are not so integrated as we are. And it's right that Suella brings it up. And I think that Labour's tactic now of suggesting that Rishi somehow is a defender of paedophiles is so disappointing. Just last year, Keir was tweeting that honesty and integrity matters and Britain deserves better. And now he's approving this playground, nasty politics as part of his campaign. If I was a Labour voter, I'd be embarrassed and very disappointed of how Labour's going about this.
Well, if I may, Belinda, I'm very sorry you're repeating these vile allegations against hard-working British Pakistanis, our doctors, our scientists, our Sajid Javids, our sports people. Stop smearing them. You don't please, Belinda, I didn't interrupt you.
You've made a comment, though.
I know you like to talk over everybody.
No, hold on. Sorry. No, I'm the one.
You're chairing it fairly.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank
so
you.
can I reply or not?
No. Belinda, you made a slight inaccuracy. Belinda, just pull him up on that and then I'll let him carry on, please.
Sorry, I was just to say, Sajid Javid was one of the politicians that came out and did say this was an important link that needed to be investigated. I have just said that many Pakistanis are as disgusted by what has gone on as anyone else.
OK, let Dennis carry on.
All right. I mean, I got into terrible trouble as a minister because I criticised the influence of Islamism, the ideology, not the religion Muslim, in the Muslim community, and people hated that. So I don't need to take lessons from anybody, but I won't be told that a Home Secretary talking about pursued rape drugged by one British community of British citizens is acceptable language. Labour shouldn't join Suella Braverman in the gutter. I completely agree on that point. But also, I do think...
Very briefly, Dennis.
Very simply, OK, you had in the House of Commons Boris Johnson saying that Starmer didn't pursue Jimmy Savile. Again, a lie. So why are the Tories using these lies?
He didn't mean it like that, and you know that. Anne Widdecombe.
Well, first of all, as far as the Jimmy Savile thing goes, what he was pointing out was that Keir Starmer was in charge of prosecutions at the time, wasn't suggesting that Starmer investigated and didn't do anything. He didn't say that. But I think that to get back to what we were talking about, which is these particular posters, they are appalling. They should be pulled. If they are not pulled, then I think we need to hear from Keir Starmer himself why not and whether or not he endorses them.
I don't disagree. I'm sorry, I've already tweeted very strongly that getting into the gutter with people like Suella Braverman on this only does Labour damage. But I just report again from this afternoon, up-to-date news, as it were, Nana, that I don't think it's having any influence on any debate.
I'm going to say that I think you're actually quite wrong with that. I think a lot of people are looking at that and saying, why are they sinking into gutter level when they don't actually need to? Belinda?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. People are, I actually feel for Labour voters. There are many good people in the Labour Party and who vote Labour who would be really, that certainly I've spoken to, very disappointed that this is the line that Labour have decided to take. And what does it show about the future, the next sort of year of campaign adverts, where Labour's going to go with this? Is this the start of a nasty campaign, or are there going to be better politics? The country deserves better politicians, better campaigning.
Belinda, I couldn't agree with you more. In that case, please ask Suella Braverman to retire to the backbenches. When you have a person like that making the remarks she does about British Pakistanis, that is taking politics
she didn't mean it like that. I'm not apologising for her. I'm just clarifying, because I totally understand what she was saying. She was giving a description of the majority of those who perpetrated that sort of crime in those areas, and they were facts. She was giving facts, and facts matter. So it is important to take those into account. Thank you very much to my commentators, Brexit Party MEP, former Brexit Party MEP Belinda de Lucy, also Labour MP Dennis McShane, and also former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your thoughts. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. On the way, we'll continue with our great British debate this hour, and I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also political commentator Sam Dowler. And then don't miss our quick-fire quiz, where I'll be quizzing my panel on some of the light stories that caught my eye. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good evening. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom at 5:32. Nicola Sturgeon says she has not been questioned by police following the arrest of her husband. Former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell was taken into custody on Wednesday as part of a police investigation into the party's finances. He was later released without charge. In her first comments since his arrest, the former First Minister said the past few days have been difficult and traumatic at times, but she intends to get on with her life and with her job. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a woman in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation. 60-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car in the Greenhill area on Wednesday evening. The boy, who cannot be identified due to his age, will appear at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday. The NHS Confederation is warning 250,000 appointments could be postponed due to a 4-day strike by junior doctors next week. Medics in England will walk out immediately after the Easter bank holiday weekend in an ongoing dispute over pay. The Department of Health and Social Care insists the industrial action must be called off before any negotiations take place. And the comedian Gareth Richards has died after being involved in a car crash last month. The 41-year-old was the former radio co-host of Frank Skinner. He suffered serious brain injuries in the accident. His wife took to social media to say it was a miracle that he made it to hospital alive and that he sadly passed away yesterday evening. You're watching GB News on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Bethany. Right, coming up, we will continue with our great British debate. And I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also political commentator Sam Dowler.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities
especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good afternoon, 37 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome on board. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for our great British debate this hour. And I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? Emily Thornberry, the Shadow Attorney General, has become the latest high-profile Labour politician to defend her party's controversial tweet, claiming that Rishi Sunak did not believe that those convicted of sexually assaulting children should go to prison. A position that seemingly puts her at odds with her colleague Lucy Powell, the Shadow Culture Secretary, who appeared to distance herself from the tweet when she appeared on GB News yesterday.
You know, these are election graphics. These are political graphics, which, as I say, are not something that I designed or wrote. Well, look, they're not my words. They're not words I've chosen.
Well, the party's also been accused of rank hypocrisy. I mean, do you remember the backlash when Boris Johnson said this about Keir Starmer last year?
This leader of the opposition, a former director of public prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, so he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
Or the criticism levelled at the Conservative Party when it was accused of smearing former leader Jeremy Corbyn when they called him an anti-Semite and a terrorist sympathiser for his supposed links to Hamas. So for the great British debate this hour, I'm asking, are Labour's tweets attacking Rishi Sunak hypocritical? Well, let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also political commentator, and I don't know what he is, Sam Dowler. Superstar. Lizzie, I'll start with you.
Oh, well, yeah, they are totally hypocritical. You two, stop laughing. I think this is appalling by Labour. It's nauseating, it's shameful, and it's hypocritical. And most of all, it's a downright lie. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And it's going to boomerang right back on them. It's a massive own goal. And I think it's quite disgusting why and how they have not taken this tweet down.
Well, Dennis McShane said that when he went knocking on doors, nobody mentioned it.
I don't believe him. Sorry, I don't believe that.
Probably calling Dennis a liar.
They're probably not on Twitter, though, are they?
Sorry, everyone is talking about it and everyone is saying it's disgraceful. Even people from their own party, John McDonnell for one. There we had Lucy Powell stuttering, wouldn't admit, saying, "Oh, it wasn't me." Yeah, no. Well, you know, have your leader. The buck lies with Keir Starmer. Stop flip-flopping. He's the human flip-flop.
He's awful.
Take this down, put your hands up, and if this is what they want to do to win the election, it's gutter politics, and that's what it is. And I thought
Sam's
they
nodding.
would.
I can't believe.
Well, I mean, you actually agree with this
I
tweet.
agree. I think it's dirty politics, and I'm really quite disappointed in it. Really, I mean, I'm sure they can. You know, make up some excuse about why it's, you know, how it's true, and like, and I don't obviously like, you know,
but it's not true.
The clip you showed of Boris Johnson there as well. I mean, all of it is dirty. We are not America. They do that in America. They have that in American politics, and we are not that. One thing that I'm super proud of is the way that we conduct ourselves.
Are you having a laugh?
Yeah, no.
Did you see the way they behaved over Brexit?
Yeah, I did. Of course, I did. But I think something like this is not what people want to see.
But I think we're seeing the true selves. We're seeing the real Starmer. He says
he didn't write the tweet, Lizzie.
He says he's Mr. Clean. He's the leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah, all right. But what I'm saying is that they have so much ammo to use. Do you know what I mean? The incompetence of the Tory party, the corruption, the migrant situation, the non-stop strikes, the police, etc., etc., etc. They don't need to go for something so lowbrow.
They posted a tweet and
Why
did
do you
nothing.
think they are doing that then? With all that you've said, I know that, you know that, everybody knows that. Why are they going down the gutter and using this tactic? One that they've even pulled up the Conservative Party for using.
I don't know. They're trying to. It's some sort of lowbrow tactic that I don't think that, as I said, I don't think the public would respond to.
Well,
really.
doesn't that worry you then? Because if they're potentially the next leaders of this country,
yeah, I think they will be the next leaders. But I think it was a mistake, and I would hope that they would either delete it or just move on from it and move on to like a more civil way of campaigning.
They're trying to get the blue voters that to say come to Labour. They, you know, Conservatives do nothing about crime and the court system. Actually, Keir Starmer, who sets himself up as Mr. Clean, is actually Mr. Dirty, and he's playing dirty tricks. He really is.
But no one's even going to. I don't think anyone's going to even believe that tweet.
They're talking to Australia and how the Labour Party worked there, and they're harsh, sharp lines. Look, my father did the Conservative campaign. Labour isn't working. That worked.
I think it's actually worse than that. I think what he's trying to do is come up with something even more ridiculous than saying women have a penis. Because he thinks that if we talk about this, we might forget that he said women have a penis. So he doesn't want us to talk about that. So they've come up with something that's ridiculous, incendiary, but it's not as damaging as the other one. And I think they want us to focus on that. I'm not going to let him off the hook.
I don't think people...
No. I think people do care about whether you're saying a woman hasn't got a penis or not, because I'm a woman and I care. And that precludes me from voting for somebody who
and I agree.
You cannot say that.
Yeah, but I
think he's worried about that.
That's what stopped me from voting for Labour.
I agree. I don't know what happened there, but, like, you know...
Let me tell you.
She imploded from the inside out.
I just want to know where that money went.
And the more we learn about that, the more I think maybe it wasn't to do with the GRC sort of stuff.
It was some of it as well.
But what I will say is that I don't think, you know, the people on the street really care about that particular conversation with Keir Starmer about the penis with women, and I don't think people really care about this tweet. People really care about this tweet. They want to talk about cost of living crisis. They want to talk about the migrant crisis. This is a distraction that I don't think the Labour Party need, and they could do better.
Sam, we want the leader of our country to know what a woman is. We really do, and that is important to women.
He does know what a woman is.
So why can he answer
from their policies as well? So they're distracting us from that. The things that we want to know, like what is a woman, they don't want to answer. And then the things that we do want to know, they don't want to talk about. And that's what's worrying me. And they're putting this nonsense in there that they know we're going to argue about, hoping to sort of put a sort of smoke screen around the things that matter to us, which are you can't define a woman. And also, what are they going to do with the economy? What are they going to do about immigration? Something they did not mention at all. And they still have not given us an answer. But I think this country needs to know.
No, I think this is going to backfire really hugely on Labour, these tweets. Because if we want to go back on their track record, looking at Rotherham and so forth, it really is going to backfire on them. And I think they're going to lose voters. They've lost respect. And I think it's absolutely appalling.
Well, my thing is that they've got the upper hand already. They've got a massive upper hand. They're well ahead in the polls. So this is they didn't need to do this, is what I'm saying. So yeah, that's what does annoy me. As I said, I'm disappointed. I think they could. Yeah, there's so much more they could talk about. There's so many faults in our current government that they could, shine a light on.
Well,
this isn't it.
He should put his hands up, say this was wrong to do.
Yeah, maybe.
Have more respect for him, but he won't because he's a human flip-flop.
No,
and he sits on the fence so much he'll get
can't even say what a woman is.
Oh, don't say it again.
No, I can't. And it's not a cis woman, by the way. Otherwise, you'll go straight.
Cisgender.
I've got the button here, Nana.
You've got two of them. We've both got one. Levers on the side of the chair. Right. Well, this show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome some of our great British voices. This is your opportunity to be on the show. Tell us what you really think about the topics we're discussing. Today, I've got 4 of you. Yeah, let's start with Alan McNeely there in Grimsby. Alan, what do you make of all of this? Hello, Alan. What do you think?
Happy Easter to you all.
Happy Easter.
It's more Labour nonsense, Nana. Complete and utter lie. But it's typical of the left wing to try to bamboozle people with misinformation, for want of a better word. I mean, Labour have got absolutely nothing to be proud about. Some of your commentators have mentioned that they've taken politics into the gutter. I don't think Labour have taken politics into the gutter now. I think they've taken it into the sewer. But that really started with Angela Rayner's remarks about everyone else who didn't support Labour being scum. I mean, if this is an example of what we're to expect from a Labour government, God help us all, because this will continue. This kind of nonsense that they come out with. That's my thoughts on it now.
Seems like they're distracting us from something. Let's go to Mike Donovan. He's there in Oxfordshire. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, hi, Nana. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I just think this demonstrates the degeneration of British politics beyond all belief. That, at the end of the day, both sides, we need to change the system. It's not about principles now, it's about personalities. And it's, I don't know how you can treat the British public with this kind of, it's a sham. I think we need to restructure British politics. And I disagree with the speaker on American politics. Robert Kennedy, before he died, he said, I fight on principle, not against my opponent. And he was killed on the 5th of June, 1968. One of the things we never do in this country anymore is listen to history, and history repeating itself.
Well, we don't listen to history. Mike, we don't listen to history because we're looking to pay reparations as nonsense. Right, let's go to Julie Ford in Bedford. Julie.
Yeah, hi, Nana. I just think, to be perfectly honest with you, this is the Labour Party being no more than just childish bullies in a playground. There is absolutely no reason to have personal targeted attacks at any member of the Conservative Party, whether that's their beliefs or not. But this is ultimately a lie. Nobody in their right mind would want sex offenders to be roaming the street, happily going about doing the same crimes again. It's nonsense. For me, Keir Starmer is in charge of the Labour Party. He had surely the sign-off on this, and he should have known better. This is just disgusting, and personally for me, I could not trust him as Prime Minister if my life depended on it.
It's just a bit stupid, isn't it? Why would he think that would be good, acceptable? Jonathan Jones, he's there in Cornwall. Jonathan.
Hi, Nana. Yeah, I think he's made his life really difficult for himself because everyone knows he's a lawyer, he's played that card really hard, and they're going to watch all these details, so he won't be able to get away with saying, I didn't know about the tweet. So it does look really hypocritical, and I think he's got his work cut out now to prove that he's our cup of tea, Nana.
I was going to say, when was that coming up? I thought you were going to say nothing a cup of tea you can't fix. It's going to take more than that, though, for him. Thank you very much to my voices, Alan in Grimsby, Mike in Oxfordshire, Julie in Bedford and Jonathan in Cornwall. Right, let's move to another story that caught my eye today. Prince Harry, a Russian anti-war artist, is selling copies of Prince Harry's Spare covered in blood. This is after Prince Harry revealed that 25 Taliban fighters were killed, or he killed them, or when he was serving with the British Army in Afghanistan. So what do you think? Are these blood-covered books a work of art, or is the artist being too harsh on Harry? Let's find out what my panel make of that. Lizzie Cundy, what do you think?
I think Harry should not be talking about, and should never have talked about, how many he killed in the Taliban. It goes against every ethic in the army. It's disgusting, and he's not only put himself in danger, but also the royal family and this country.
And the coronation.
And we've got the coronation coming, so I hope he doesn't come, because he hasn't made his mind up. But he's still not letting the king I think so disrespectfully that he is coming or not. I hope he doesn't come, because it will put a massive security risk on the whole of the coronation.
I think these blood-covered books, I mean, like, art is subjective, so, I mean, like, you know, it could well be an art installation or, you know, but it's a statement. It's a statement that, you know, that what he said was a mistake. And, you know...
He hasn't come out and apologised.
Well, I think we can all agree that it's a mistake. You know, obviously, his old compadres in the army were like, oh, what have you done? And, like, but as we said before...
But he crossed the line.
As we said before, you know, that's what his publisher wanted. They wanted dirt, they wanted juice, and they got it. And, like, and maybe he didn't think ahead about what
He doesn't think...
No, as an officer of gentlemen...
I think the answer is he doesn't think at all.
He hasn't got brain.
He doesn't think, does he? Right, well, it's time for my quick-fire quiz. So joining me now is Lizzie Cundy. Push your buzzer, please, Lizzie. And Sam Dowler, your buzzer, please. We've got some new buzzers. $9.99. Right, please play along at home. Question 1. A charity dedicated to eating disorders has found that something in particular negatively affects the mood of people suffering from the disorders. But what is it? Is it A, the sheer number of McDonald's in most cities, B, menus displaying how many calories each item is, or C, the advertisement of weight loss programmes? Lizzie Cundy.
I'd say B.
B, which is?
It's saying that displaying how many calories each item has.
What do you think, Sam Dowler?
I would say the same thing, actually, to be honest.
Same thing, the same B. The answer is B, menus displaying how many calories each item is. The charity says that the possibility people possibly suffering from eating disorders based on calorie count may be harmful. They have said that. Do you think that's very harmful?
A friend of mine, Gemma Ocean, she runs a charity called Seed, and it's to do with eating disorders. And you know, and I've had friends, many friends who've had eating disorders. I was good friends with Nikki Graham before she passed, sadly.
Yeah,
and so these things are, you know,
they shouldn't.
There's so many things that are triggering.
I just don't like knowing how much is in there because I don't want to know. I just want to eat my food in peace.
Exactly.
Question 2. An exotic frog was found in the cluster of bananas purchased from a Lidl in Surrey this week, but how many miles did the frog travel? Closest answers wins. Sam Dowler.
2,500 miles.
I'm going to say 5.
5,000. 3,200 between Sam. You win a point. Yes, of course, the frog initially believed to come from the coast of the Ivory Coast in Africa. Question 3. How did one Monopoly game end in Belgium this week? Was it A, the toy money turned out to be real, B, it resulted in a samurai sword fight, or C, one of the players ended up swallowing all the game... No buzzers should be pressed until I finish. All the pieces. I'll let you off on this, Sam. What is the answer?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever played Monopoly with family members.
It's called monotony.
It's samurai sword, I would say, because first people get angry.
I was going to say B, because people get very competitive.
They do.
And it always ends in tears when I play it.
So you say samurai sword? Let's see if the answer is correct. B, it resulted in a samurai sword fight. Oh, my God. What's the worst thing you've ever done over a board game? Actually, I won't ask. I'm not
Don't ask that one.
Question 4, true or false? The world record for the world's widest wig
yes.
has been recently broken. True or false? Lizzie Cundy.
True.
Sam Dowler,
it's got to be true.
It has to be true.
It's true. The wig measures a whopping 8 feet across.
Wow.
Would either of you wear a wig?
Of course.
Or that wig in particular?
She's got one on now.
I've got one on now.
No.
Can
This
you
is
tell?
actually my own.
No.
Liar.
Come on, you've got to take it off.
No, mine's
I'll take mine off. I'll take mine off. Do you want to have a look at my own?
Yeah,
Go on then.
Come on.
Forget yourself. Just joking. Maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll take my wig off one
Mars Singer, take it off.
Take it off, take it off. I'll tell you what to do with that one. Right, question 5. One British woman has kept an Easter egg in cold storage for 60 years, but why? Is it A, she was given it at birth, B, she likes the way it looks, or C, it's worth a lot of money? Lizzie Cundy.
Must be about the money, surely. C.
What do you think?
I think because she was given it when she was born.
Well, you can't give a baby chocolate.
You can, if they don't eat
No,
it.
it's like a Fabergé egg or something.
No, she likes the way it looks. You're both totally wrong. She has she's extremely impressed with... I'm impressed with cows, aren't you?
That'd be rotten by now.
In fact, can I just say something? Where are my eggs?
What eggs?
Ask your doctor,
In
Lizzie.
your tubes, girl, in your tubes.
Long gone.
Long. They've dried up by now.
Is it tomorrow that you're supposed to eat the eggs?
Yes, Sunday. Sunday you start.
But I thought I would have got one from my colleagues.
I'm going to take an egg.
Where's ours?
Somebody else who got an egg that didn't belong to... Well, anyway. I'm going to take an egg from somebody else and they know who they are. Right, well, on today's show, I've been asking, is it immoral to house migrants on barges? And according to our Twitter poll, 8% of you say yes and only 92% of you say no. It isn't immoral at all. It's actually a privilege and they're lucky to have the accommodation, food and shelter, and most people would be grateful, wouldn't you think so? I've got to say, thank you so much to my panel broadcaster and columnist, Lizzie Cundy. Thank you very much, Lizzie.
Thank you.
And also political commentator, Sam Dowler. Thank you very much, Sam Dowler.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to you for your company and for joining me today. I'll be back tomorrow at 3. Joining me live will be the fabulous Christine Hamilton and, of course, Danny Kelly. We'll also have a head-to-head. You won't want to miss that. Have a fabulous day. Enjoy the rest of these holidays. I'll see you tomorrow at 3. Enjoy the weather.
Hello there, I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. Hope you've been enjoying the Easter weekend so far. There has been plenty of fine weather and we'll continue to see more of that into Sunday. There are fronts out in the Atlantic that are slowly going to make their progress towards the UK, but high pressure is keeping them at bay for the moment and keeping things fairly fine and settled. Just a bit more of a breeze across western areas, and that will be strengthening as we head throughout the rest of this evening and through tonight, but many of us will remain dry and with some clear intervals. Some low cloud pushing into parts of eastern England and Scotland as well, maybe a few fog patches around, but with the breeze and the increasing cloud, temperatures won't drop too far. Most towns and cities will hold up around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. Could be a bit of a murky start again in the east, but as the breeze again strengthens here, that should hopefully help lift some of that cloud out of the way, and most of England, Wales and Scotland should see some sunny intervals throughout the day. The sunshine though will be turning hazy as this cloud from the west pushes in, and we'll see some outbreaks of rain into Northern Ireland later on. Temperatures climbing up compared to Saturday around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, but in that strengthening breeze, it will just take the edge off the feel of things. It's into the overnight period where we'll start to see that rain push more widely across the rest of the UK. Could be some heavier bursts on that across Scotland into parts of northern England as well. Then as we head into the early part of Monday, it will be clearing its way off the far southeast, potentially just lingering here for a little while throughout the morning and into the start of the afternoon. Behind that, though, many of us will see a barrage of showers push their way in on Monday, and some